afternoon, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight Podcast, the only wrestling podcast that brings you back 30 years with vintage audio featuring some of the biggest names of that time. Today's show is certainly no exception. The Pro Wrestling Spotlight covered all the news stories and breaking developments that happened in real time, and now we relive those moments right here on this podcast. Today, we will review the Pro Wrestling This Week program, which aired on 1440 WNYG in Babylon, New York, and the Pro Wrestling Spotlight, which was broadcast on 1050 AM WEVD in New York City. Both shows aired on June the 5th, 1993. And the evening show could be the wildest in the history of Pro Wrestling Spotlight. If not the wildest, it'll certainly rank in the all-time top 10. We will get all the information and all those hilarious clips in a minute with our producer and creative director, Marsh. And we do bring on a special guest today as well, our friend from Florida, Donny Laible, will join us in just a couple minutes as well. So it should be a really good one today. You will be laughing, and I tell you, it's going to be an interesting one for sure. I do want to mention Patreon, and our efforts there pay for the production cost for producing and distributing this show. I actually read on Facebook this week that there were two of our patrons that are no longer patrons because they said there's too much content on there and they'll never get to it all. Well, for $5 a month to get you in the door, you get the complete catalog of the Pro Wrestling Spotlight, all the shows that started in 1989. There's also college shows there. We have other levels from $10, $25, $50, and $100. Each level gives you more perks and more exclusives, even the opportunities to come on this program. So they'll go to patreon.com/John Arezzi, patreon.com/John Arezzi. And I do appreciate your support. And please become a patron today. And also subscribe to that YouTube channel. And that is youtube.com/Pro Wrestling Spotlight. I want to bring on Marsh first. Not March first, but Marsh first.
Well, Marsh Madness, they used to call me.
Well, so Marsh Madness is here in the house. How you doing, Mr. Madness?
I'm doing good. I remember we decided last week we would split these episodes up because I was like, it feels like it's kind of a lot to go through. And then as I was going through it, I was like, this is even more to go through. This is crazy. These episodes are awesome.
It is going to be a little nutty today. I do see Medusa's book in the background over there.
Yeah, I have to plug it. I'm contractually obligated.
Yes, well, that's fine. She's actually going to be in this neck of the woods. Is she coming up here for the July 3rd monster truck deal and then coming back in August for that personal appearance here in Tennessee? Do you know what she's doing?
I'm not positive, and I know that the last I heard about a personal appearance, that time frame-ish, she was it hadn't finalized anything, so I'm just not positive. I just don't know where they're at with it. Yeah,
I know. It's I actually was there with Dan Severin and Grant's. I'll give that information on another show because I'm definitely going to be there that day, so I could see her. But I know there's a monster truck event that I thought she was going to here, and I know that's July 3rd. So whether she's here for that or not, I don't know. I saw a post on Facebook. Is she in Japan right now? She had a picture with Thunder Rosa.
That was a little bit. That was further back. Because I know she wants to make another trip to Japan coming up, but she's not in Japan this moment. She's actually not traveling a lot this particular month. So
no kidding. So I could reach out to her.
Yeah, absolutely. She had a bone to pick with you last time I talked to her. She said she's called 3 times and it went straight to voicemail. She
called me once. Once. And it was like early in the morning, and she was in with the NWA, and she said she's only available for half an hour, and da 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 da. So by the time I saw the message, that time had elapsed, and I didn't call her back. So it wasn't 3 times. Tell her she's bullshitting. I'll tell her that when I speak to her.
You'll call her first thing in the morning.
I will, and I'll say you're a bullshit artist. Don't work me.
Been around it too long.
Yeah. And I know her episode of Hidden Treasures is coming up soon, too, so it may be a good time for her to promote that.
That'd be coming up. Also, what's coming up on, I mean, by the time this drops, it may have already be out, but it's split into two. She interviewed Greg Oliver for her Queen of Carnage youtube.com/Queen of Carnage.
Nice one.
And you come up a little bit, not surprisingly, I think.
I hope, could imagine what she says. So anyway, I love her, though. I do. She's so
She's
cool.
great. And
She's
she loves
so
you.
cool.
And
Yes.
I know you guys both love her.
I'm her hub.
Yeah.
That's what she calls me. Hub.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, today's going to be a freaking wild one. And let's bring Donny on. Donny Laible is joining us from down there in hot, sunny Florida. Donny, how are you?
Not far from Medusa.
How are you?
I'm pumped. Anytime we could go back in time and a time of wrestling that I just loved, and especially with Paul E, it's wonderful.
Yeah. It's going to be a crazy show to review. Once I heard the show, once I uploaded the show, I was like, this is off the chart. This is crazy shit. This is incredibly nuts. And then when Marsh heard it, I mean, your first reaction was similar, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and people can tell, I think, generally how my notes are structured because I'll look through them and read off of them as we go through. About halfway through that second episode, I don't have notes. I couldn't figure out how to notate this. What was happening? What was the topic? How do you describe what we're going through? So then by the time Paul comes on, really it's just clips and there's going to be stuff in between that's not really talked about. So be on Patreon to hear the whole thing. But yeah, this one got kind of out of control to the point where I was like, I don't know how to summarize this.
Can you imagine me being in the studio? How I was reacting to it, which we'll get to. I was actually almost in a state of shock. It was anger. It was sadness in a way for the way he was treating the callers. It was remorse of inviting him back on. It wasn't anything pleasant, and I tried to keep a brave face, but...
Excuse me, Johnny. I got to step aside for a second.
Okay, Don. Not a problem.
I'm going to leave the studio and come back to you real quick because my connection's doing that thing. So now's a good time to split.
I'll keep everybody entertained for a few seconds while you're. Are you okay, Marsh? Are you actually doing that, or are you ribbing?
I'm gonna pop out. It's only gonna be a second.
All right. Well, not a problem. Obviously, everybody knows I've known Paul since he was a young man, a member of the Freddie Blassie fan club back when he was a teenager, and had a great relationship with him. And I don't know what sparked what we're going to be hearing today. I don't know. All I know is he was on a previous show and he pissed some people off, and I got a bunch of letters. So he came back and he brought somebody with him, a friend of his, Matt DeMatt, who actually did some ECW stuff as well. But it's going to be a wild one today. So buckle up. Marsh, I'm going to turn it over to you, and me and Don will make our comments as the show progresses and guide the ship, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There it is. I was having a ton of technical. Oh my gosh.
What the hell are you investing today?
I updated my router. I did a firmware thing. That's the whole thing. So now,
the life of a creative director and a producer.
And technology's been my bread and butter my whole life. I've been in IT forever. So when it starts to fight back, I get real mad. I take it personal.
Of course you should.
Yeah.
But yeah, in here there's two moments. There's one where it sounds like you just get up and walk away. Like you can hear you saying I'm leaving, as you can hear yourself getting further from a mic. At one point you just mention, you go, at this point I'm just moderating. You're like, I'm not hosting anything. So, but the morning show started off with the brand new news, the big breaking news that we teased at the end of the last one. Vince McMahon stepped down as president of the WWF. Never to be seen or heard from again.
Yeah, right. I mean, we did get that, towards the end of the last show. It was one of the last things we talked about, is this breaking news was coming in. We couldn't verify it, but it did turn out to be true, and he did resign.
Yeah. So here's the opening for that morning pro wrestling this week, where you break it all down.
So we'll be getting to all of that in just a bit. But let's talk about the McMahon situation first and foremost. And this is the column directly from Mike Moonaghan. It reads, headline story, McMahon puts WWF in wife's control. World Wrestling Federation owner Vince McMahon has resigned as president of Titan Sports. McMahon, 47, who has long been regarded the most powerful individual in the wrestling business, will retain his position as chairman of the board and chief executive officer of the Connecticut-based parent company of the WWF. His wife, Linda McMahon, will take over duties as president of the organization. Now, a quote from Steve Planamenta in the article. It was really just a transfer of titles, WWF spokesman Planamenta said Thursday. It's a formality. Anybody that knows anything about this company knows what kind of business mind Linda has. She hasn't been in the position she's been in simply because she's Mrs. McMahon. Anybody who knows her knows that while Vince was doing the creative part in building the company, it was Linda who was building the business side of it. It was just long overdue, end quote. Controversy, however, has swirled around the company during the past 2 years amid allegations of drug abuse, widespread steroid use, and sexual harassment. Sources say that McMahon has been a target of a U.S. Justice Department investigation, with many wrestlers and officials being questioned by agents in recent months. Another quote from a wrestler. I assume this was coming, said a former WWF star who wanted to remain anonymous. I heard Vince was putting everything in his wife's name. He knows that the grand jury probably has enough on him to indict him. A lot of people have said a lot of things, and a lot of people have been subpoenaed. Vince would never relinquish power if he didn't think he was in big trouble. That's not Vince's style. This could be the final chapter. I'm sure they're closing in, end quote. McMahon, despite the adverse publicity, was able to garner positive media coverage this year with his promotion of the Headlock on Hunger Red Cross benefit show at Madison Square Garden. The program reportedly raised $100,000 for the Somalia relief effort. McMahon was also honored March 15th by the Michael Landon Foundation for contributions to charities. Mrs. McMahon was recently one of about 100 people, including President Clinton, to receive the Ellis Island Medal of Honor for contributions to society. Another quote, I think it's a wild thing to have a woman behind an operation like this, Randy Savage said in a recent New York Times interview. I compare it to what Hillary Clinton is doing in the White House. Linda McMahon is the First Lady of the World Wrestling Federation. She's a complete class act, and she's running a huge corporate business. It's a good feeling to work for people who want us to go out into the community and help so many different charities and organizations. If there was enough time, Linda McMahon would help everyone, everywhere. That's her way, end quote. And that is the end of the article that appeared in last Sunday's Post and Courier down in South Carolina by Mike Moonaghan. And let me tell you something, folks. This is a interesting development. Now, the WWF spin doctors all week long were really trying to play down this story, but I really think there's something there. McMahon resigning, there's got to be reasons. They're trying to say that it was Linda doing the business there all along. Now, Linda McMahon, from what I've heard about her, and I've met her once briefly, she is an astute businesswoman, very, very sharp mind, and I have no doubt that she has been behind a lot of the business and corporate decisions in that company. But this is a development that leads you to believe that this ongoing Justice Department investigation will be coming to a conclusion one way or the other imminently. Big stuff there.
Yeah, there was a lot there. There was a lot going on.
You know, John, I remember having several conversations with Walter Kowalski about the McMahons. He always worked for them, and also later in his life, he worked as somewhat of an agent for them. And I can remember him telling me way back in the mid-'80s, 84, 85, he talked about when Vince was taking over the company and all, he said for years when Vince would promote shows throughout New England, he said the shows were always in the name of Linda McMahon, the promoter's license in Massachusetts and in Rhode Island and whatnot. And he always said Linda she was the brains of the operation. And that goes back again, to the mid 80s. So she was always involved in that part of the business. And why wouldn't you? If you want to be a success, you need to know all facets of your business.
Yeah, quite true. And she certainly was an astute businesswoman. To this day, she certainly is with everything she's done, even after wrestling. But you could tell, I mean, this was a huge story. I mean, it was picked up by so many different mainstream publications, TV. And the feds were closing in. They were preparing their case to indict him. So he was cleaning, getting everything in a row, all his ducks in a row for what the time comes when he gets indicted. So with her being given the reins, it was an interesting time, and obviously he's still around. So. But it was an interesting time because at that time you didn't know what to expect. Is he going to be gone? And what is the repercussions of all of this? So it was really a fascinating time to look back at what happened that week. Information was
at a premium like it is today, so readily available with the internet and whatnot. Back then, it was. Footwork and trying to make phone calls and connections of who heard what. So the little information that we were getting really excited us to try to find more because it was unheard of to think that he might be able to be indicted. And of course, then the neck brace came and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and this, even the article that I was reading off of, I did receive it via fax machine, because it did come out in a newspaper, and there was no way you can go online to read it because it wasn't there. There was no online at the time.
Yeah.
So it was faxed over, and I was able to get it and then read it for the listeners.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. And you even talk about it later on that you guys were always told that Linda was doing all of the business side of stuff, that Vince was primarily booking and doing creative and making the show go, but any business thing was Linda, which is kind of opposite from what we hear about him now. It's always Vince was the brains behind all of it always, that he was the big business genius.
I think some of that had to do with the business in her name. Early on, Vince McMahon had a few businesses that went bankrupt. I know he had one type of construction company that went under, and something else I was told.
Didn't he have a piece of the Cape Cod Coliseum too?
Yes, he owned that. He bought that, and he owned the hockey team came with that. In fact, that's where, as the story is told, Howard Finkel was an usher there and a big-time wrestling fan. And that's where Howard Finkel met somebody in the WWF, and they introduced him to Vince, and he went from being an usher to becoming Howard the Fink. But Vince had a couple businesses that failed, and that could have been the reason why more things were in Linda's name, because Vince maybe couldn't get money or loans in his name.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah, there was outside investors that were coming in. So he always leveraged everything that he had. So he was a kind of this, entrepreneur. And when he bought the business from his dad, I believe they paid $1 million for it. They didn't pay a lot of money for it in '82. And then when his dad passed in '84, that's when, he was like, all right, I'm doing what I want to do now, and I'm taking over everything. But he had, and still does to this day, a lot of, big grapefruits but the actual growth of the company with the infrastructure and the business deals, a lot of that could be attributed to Linda.
Yeah. Also crazy to think when you think just strictly number wise and to take all of the other factors out of it. Vince paid double for WCW than he paid for WWF.
Yeah. And look at the library he got for that cheap amount of money. I mean, that's why he probably bought it.
Exactly.
Do you remember the name of the hockey team that he owned?
I don't at the moment. It was in the North American Hockey League, which, like you'd have in baseball, AAA, AA, single A. This would have been like below A level. It was
pretty low.
Really low.
All right. It wasn't that Trashers one that came around a while later.
Not that I know of. No.
Let's. I'm gonna. While John looks that up, because I can tell us what he's up to real quick. The other things that came out of this opening segment that was notable was that WCW was going to go tape at Disney for 6 months in advance, and John was hoping that it was a misspoken thing, that it was really be closer to 3 months in advance, because he's like, 6 months, you don't know the kind of injuries, the kind of issues you could have, the talent who's going to just be gone, especially because that's kind of the nature of WCW at the time. And then the other notable thing was that Clash of the Champions was coming up, and it was going to introduce a heel Steven Regal, who's going to debut as Lord Regal, managed by Sir William Dundee.
Sir William Dundee.
Yeah.
Superstar Bill Dundee from Memphis. Yeah.
Yeah, the hockey team was the Cape Cod Buccaneers.
No wonder I forgot.
But that'll bring us to the first little batch of callers. You have two of them back to back.
There was no Donny on that morning show?
Donny was not on this morning. No, he has a prominent role in the beginning of the next episode.
Yeah, he was playing hooky in the morning show.
You know what? I may have been up in Massachusetts with the Killer.
Doing what?
Coming home on Sunday. Yeah.
Donny did a lot of stuff with the Killer. He was a manager.
That was my man.
He was like,
I love that man so much. He was a wonderful human being. I won't tie things down with that, but it was just a joy all the time to hear all the stories, and just a wonderful human being.
That might be fun to do a little bonus thing. Just have Donny come on and talk some Killer Kowalski stories.
We got clips. We had that time that he was in the studio with Mick Foley. That was crazy.
Yeah, it'd be fun to do something like that.
And the convention he was at in '92. So we might do a Killer Kowalski special down the road.
As a kid too, when I was like 10 or 11, I remember my father owned a collectible store, so I was always cognizant of collectibles, toys, autographs, and stuff. And I started collecting wrestling autographs in the early days of eBay and stuff. And one of the ones that was like a prize for me was getting a Killer Kowalski 8x10.
What's great about that is you could read his signature. So many things today. It's just like one big scratch mark. Walter,
very nice signature.
Great signature. Yeah.
It was amazing. And even me just being a young kid who didn't know anything about anything really, I only knew him as the guy who trained Triple H. So for me, it was like, wow, he's a legend. He trained Triple H. Like, that was the legendary status of him. Like,
if I could just throw in a quick story on that. I remember when that was all taking place, and I remember there was a show on a Friday night, a small show, and this was maybe the second match that Triple H had. And I walked in the dressing room. I'd heard about it and hadn't seen him yet. And I walk in the dressing room, and I knew instantly he's going to be a huge star. And I knew that for a couple of things. I said, Walter's connections with Pat Patterson and Vince, he's going to go there. He had a body that looked like he should be on television. But the most revealing thing why I knew he was going to be a huge star, Walter gave him a robe of his to wear. Now, Walter never gave out his gear for anybody to wear. And I came in a dressing room, and he had on a purple velour robe. It looked something like you'd see in a Roman movie, and with tassels on it and all. I go, oh my gosh! If Walter gave him this to wear, Walter says, "This is my ticket. This is my meal. I'm giving him everything he wanted." And I can remember that night so vividly. Perry Saturn, who was my dear friend, was on a show, and he was up and coming, and I took a picture of the two of them, which I really, that's one of the few things that I've kept. And I looked at Paul and I go, oh my God, this guy, I'm taking more pictures because this guy's going to be a star. And when I saw how Walter treated him, I knew he was going.
You knew it.
Well, this is the first batch of callers coming through. We got Brian from Long Beach, followed by Adam from Levittown.
We're going to go to the phones, 661-1440. Let's go to our first caller of the day, and we'll be speaking to Brian from Long Beach. Brian, you're first today.
How's it going, John?
Okay, Brian.
2 questions. I want to know, you think Vince McMahon is going to remain a co-commentator?
Well, this is my personal opinion, okay? Obviously, if the Justice Department does not indict him, then he's going to do what he's done every week. He's going to remain on television. But if there is an indictment handed down, I think that Jim Ross is going to jump right in, with McMahon's approval, of course, and remain on television. Jim Ross will take over the role.
Okay, and I heard this Mike Shaw has a new gimmick.
Yeah, Mike Shaw does have a new gimmick, and from what we heard from published reports, it was called the Gargoyle.
Oh, because my friend told me he's also wrestling now Sebastian Booger.
Sebastian Booger?
Yeah.
Well, they're changing his name as much as they're doing the Lightning Kid, aren't they?
Okay, thanks a lot, John.
Take care. Another thing, just getting back to the McMahon situation now, we also heard from a source earlier this week. By the way, the number to call here is 661-1440 if you want to continue this topic of discussion. We heard from a source that television taping in Canada last week, there was a closed-door meeting that McMahon had with the wrestlers, and this is just what we heard. Now, I was not there, obviously, but our source told us that McMahon had a meeting with the wrestlers stating that he fully expects something to go down with the Justice Department, that he would be paraded in front of the media, but that he would beat anything that is leveled against him. So he's going into whatever situation may be developing, and it may not happen this month or next month or till the fall, who knows when, but he is preparing himself one way or the other. Now, this has been a situation that's been ongoing for a long, long time, and it's really heating up. The phone lines in my office have been just ringing off the hook this week. Various people calling in, giving their opinions, trying to give us some information. So it's getting real hot and heavy as we head here into the summertime with the situation. It's really, really heating up. The number to call here is 661-1440, and we'll be taking your calls and comments and also tell you about a couple of our sponsors in just a second. We'll go back to the phones. We're going to go to Adam from Levittown, one of our regular callers here. Adam, you're next.
Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm okay.
I heard, when I was at Monday Night Raw Monday night, a lot of people heard the same rumor about McMahon. It was really going around the line.
Now, I understand that McMahon was in a real ugly mood Monday night.
Yeah, he didn't look very happy when the cameras were off. He came out about 2 minutes before they went on the air, and at the end of the show, people were telling him what a good show it was. He was just thanking them and walking out.
Yeah, I understand, and even some of the, during the commercial breaks or whatever, he really was in a sour mood for whatever reason. I also heard, was he accompanied by a couple of bodyguards coming out? To your knowledge, did you notice that?
No, all I noticed was just like the Manhattan Center, ushers walking them down.
Uh-huh.
I didn't notice any bodyguards.
Okay.
I'm going again this week, so I'll check it out.
They are taping in Monday night?
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll probably tape a couple of weeks this time.
Yeah, they probably will. Yeah, that's basically, it's been a crazy week. Just there's a lot of it seems like there's a big buildup leading to something.
What do you think is the worst that is going to happen in the man?
Well, the worst that could happen is he could possibly go to jail.
Yeah, how long do you think?
I don't know. It depends on what the charges would be, if there are going to be charges.
Because I think right now, even though McMahon, gave the other half of the company to his wife, I think that's just on paper right now. Until something happens, he's still what he was.
Well, if one understand, also in that closed-door meeting, he said, if something happens to me or whatever, this is just, like I said, this is the second-hand reports that I received that J.J. Dillon and Pat Patterson and his son Shane would be running the show.
And he could still, if he's in jail, they could still go and visit him, and he could still give an influence.
Yeah, we're really speculating now.
Yeah, I know.
We're really speculating now.
It's really crazy what's going down here.
Yeah.
Because someone was telling me about it online, I'm just like, really? And then it was just like, because I know his wife is really into the Federation, she knows what she's doing, but I was surprised that he, just gave it up out of nowhere like that.
Yeah. It's going to be a real interesting summer.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, well, listen, we appreciate your call.
One more thing, if they want to make the arrest, they know exactly where to do it every Monday night because McMahon's at the Manhattan Center.
Yeah. That's quite true.
That would be, imagine him getting arrested in front of all those Manhattan Center fans.
It would be easier to get in there than in Stanford at the Titan Towers, that's for sure, to places like the Pentagon.
Yeah, and there was a big chant at Manhattan Center that McMahon might not like. It was Hogan sucks. All night they were chanting it.
Hogan certainly, there's a lot to be desired at this point.
There this week, too. I'm not sure. McMahon said he wouldn't be surprised if McMahon was there this week.
If Hogan was there?
Yeah.
Could be. It's pay-per-view's coming up next weekend. He should be there to promote it. He hasn't really done squat to really promote this thing.
It'd be very interesting to hear the reaction.
Yeah.
He puts his hand to his ear.
Okay, listen, thanks for your call.
Thank you very much, John.
Our beloved callers.
Yep.
Starting off with Brian from Long Beach. Brian last.
John, during this time, maybe throughout you doing the radio show, but at this time that we're focusing on there, about how many phone calls a week do you think, or daily, however it would be, that you would get, tips for the show or just people interested in the show? How many voice messages would you get?
There was quite a few. I mean, the mainstays, obviously, Dave and I, Meltzer and I would converse, and there were times Alex Marvez and probably even Mike Moonaghan that particular week because of the article that he had done and getting that article from him. George M. Acropolis, of course, the chatterbox, would always call in and weigh in with her speculation and the rumors that she heard from the people in her sources. So it was a mishmash of everything. Then you had even fans calling in, and so each week was a different experience. But when things like this started to happen and heat up, that's when the phones lit up a little bit more at the home office.
That's cool. Let's see. You also, Bruce Jacobs comes in. You talk about how he's dressed up all dapper.
I busted his chops every week about his attire.
Yeah. Mickey B comes in. He says he's going from a 46 waistline to 48 waistline. Decided to upgrade.
So he was going up instead of down. So the 44 waistline and all was now going up to a 48.
Yeah. And then, Donnie, you sent me a quick message there, too, that Mike Shaw, the whole thing with him, because you had reported a week before that Mike Shaw was going to be wrestling as the Gargoyle. And so it was interesting that Brian was the first one to come in and say he's hearing it's Sebastian Booger, which becomes Bastion Booger.
Well, you know where I think he got that? Mike Shaw was his own best promoter. Mike knew how to work fans and work people. I have no doubt he called and told him that, and then probably followed it up with a letter of written down of what his gimmick was going to be. I think I told you once on the show about I got a little hot water with the NWA when the WCW when Mike Shaw wanted to get a raise, and he thought the best way to get a raise was to have fans sending letters to their offices in Atlanta to say, give me a raise, give Mike, give Bastion Booger, give Norman the Lunatic a raise. So what he was doing was he sent me quite a few letters, and because he didn't want an Atlanta postmark on it. So he gave me the letters because I knew him from his days with Kowalski, and I'll do him a favor. So I sent these letters continuously to WCW's office. However, I got pinched by promoter Gary Juster because he said he called me up one day and I felt so like I committed a crime. He says, Don, stop doing favors for Mike Shaw. It's not going to work for him. And I had to play dumb. He says, Don, we're looking at the postmarks, and they're all from Utica, New York. And we thought, who do we know in Utica, New York? And they all pointed the finger at a meeting. Hey, that Donny Laible lives near there. So then I had to contact Mike Shaw while he was there as Norman the Lunatic. I said, Mike, it's up for you, man. They know that you've been writing these letters saying you want a raise. And
but how ridiculous is that anyway?
That,
when you really think about it, Don, how ridiculous is that? How are you recruiting friends like yourself, fans, reporters, whatever, I want a raise. So here's the letter. Send it to WCW, asking for a raise. I mean, that's kind of stupid.
Johnny, the day that we met in Boston in 1989 for the Boston show, NWA, the next day, that Sunday, they had a show in Springfield. But in the morning, we drove over to Salem, Massachusetts, where Walter had his school at that time. And Mike Shaw came over there to talk to some of his students because that's when Mike started. And that's when Mike said, I got this idea. I'm getting 100,000, but I want to raise. And he said, can I send you some letters just so they don't get because he had lived in Atlanta at the time, obviously. He says, I don't want an Atlanta postmark, so can I give it to you? Well, you know me a long time, Johnny. When I got that call from Gary Juster, and it was on a speakerphone, so I'm sure there were other people listening in. And when he goes, Don, we know it's coming from you. I thought, oh my God, I'm barred for life. They're not going to give me any passes or anything like that. So my saving grace was J.J. Dillon contacted me and says, hey, Don, could you get me some Yankee autographs? There was some signings coming up in Cooperstown and Syracuse. I said, sure. So he sent me his things to get signed. And from that time on, whenever I needed a pass, I just called J.J. and he took care of me. But Mike Shaw, busted.
Very cool story there.
That's nuts. It's also wild to think that he was trained by Kowalski as well. You don't think of him as like, I mean, when you think about him in history time frame, it's all like, oh, that was that weirdo jobber type guy. You don't think of him as like a very well-trained professional. You know what I mean? Like, just as you're a kid, you don't notice as much.
Yeah, crazy times, man.
Let's see. You put over the 900 number again. I stopped hearing ads for your hotline. I'm strictly hearing the 900 number.
Yeah, the Jim Herd,
that
initiative. Yeah, I guess I had to stop doing the other 900 numbers if I was doing this thing with Herd and the rest of the gang.
And you probably were going to make the same amount, if anything,
If anything, that's the best two words of that whole sentence. If anything.
Donnie, were you on the Jim Herd 900 line?
I was on. I know I filled it a couple times for John, and there was another 900 line. I don't remember who had it, but I can remember getting checks for like $2, $4, and that was it. So no, nobody made money on that, at least that I knew of.
The providers were the people who put. Those were the ones that were making the money. Everyone else got pennies.
But the best one, I got a check one time for $1 from one of the magazines. Mike O'Hara was the publisher, and he sent me a check for $1 for a photograph. I couldn't believe it.
Like postage cut into this deeper. That's kind of interesting too. It's also funny because you even mentioned, John, that you don't think the Jim Herd line lasted all that long, and Donnie's like, I definitely have to fill in for John a few times. Like, you gave up.
It might have been when I was either overseas.
I think that's
Donnie.
what it was. Yeah.
And then Texas. Well, Texas, I was able to do it from the Texas show that we have, and but yeah.
Do you have the episodes coming up where you were in Southeast Asia? You said you were going to record a couple from there.
Yeah, I have the shows. It's kind of ironic. I mean, because this Paul E show tonight is kind of, there's only 2 more WEVD shows after this.
Okay.
And they're both 1.5 hour shows, and they're both from Southeast Asia. So
cool.
July 3rd, 93, show number 225 is from Manila. And then the following week, Pro Wrestling Spotlight, July the 10th from Singapore. And so that's it. And then we come back from overseas, and then we do a show from Texas too. Donnie, you had to be a part of that one, right?
I was there. Yeah.
Did we have Sherry Martel or I don't remember who was on that show. Well, I guess we'll find out as the weeks progress.
I and Sherry spent the first night together in the wee hours, and then she also went with us. She also went with us to the Sportatorium. So we had a fun time. And just a side note, I can remember one time she called me in the morning after that, and it was like, oh, it was like yes, Satan. It was frightening to hear the early morning voice of Sherry Martel.
We're definitely going to bring you back for the Texas show, because the stories behind that Texas show is going to be that crazy shit.
I was there for that. I saw it.
Yeah,
awesome.
that'll be a good one. Anyway, I'm sorry, Marsh. We digress.
Digress.
All good. Let's see. It's funny because you just talked about I forget the way you worded just about how much you loved your callers. Because the next thing you say about the callers is you go, it's the same 8 callers every week. I'm sick of this. You said you're going to have to do some sort of show where you do only first-time callers.
First time, long time.
Yep.
Some long time.
And then as soon as you say that, you pick up and it's James from Lindenhurst. So another one of the same age. So.
Well, the station could only be heard for like 5 miles or whatever it is. 10 miles. It wasn't like WNYG had any type of good signal.
Yeah. But he talks about how he couldn't believe Vince stepped down until he heard it was Linda and then realized it was probably a paper deal. And then you guys both kind of complain a little bit about the King of the Ring, the way it's looking, and how you guys think that Brett should turn heel. Then you go on to talk about the 900 number again. Yeah. Then you talk about Paul E on tonight, and that how he got a ton of hate mail.
Yeah.
That you're working on Jake doing an LNS appearance coming up.
I did it. Yeah. That. Wait. That. He couldn't even sign. He was so fucked up.
Callers come through. Vinny from Babylon asking about how Cactus is, asking about Billy Graham. You kind of talk about how Billy Graham got into evangelism, which you guys thought was kind of ironic. And that you said that maybe for Weekend of Champions, you can do a tag team sermon with with Billy Graham brothers, both Billy Grahams. Let's see. Yeah, you guys talk a little bit of smack on Vince. Scott from Wantock calls in on his way to the dentist from a car phone, says that people paint Vince into a monster just because he's got money. And then you guys compare him to Donald Trump, which I thought was interesting.
Well, I think they're both kind of similar.
Mm-hmm. I think it was easy to see then and now. I think it's still the same. Kevin from Wata asks what's going on with the Warrior. And then I got the end of the show here. You have a call come through from a John. You have Bob from Point Pleasant, and then you kind of wrap up the show nicely with Mickey B. And so I kind of kept that all together because it was all kind of nice.
Well, let's hear the happy ending.
Let's go to John from Hempstead, another first-time caller. John, you're next. Hello.
John, Arezzi. Good morning, everybody.
Oh, my God.
Okay. No, that's not me. Someone looking in here. That's someone playing a tape on the telephone. But anyway, what's going to be happening with the radio programs? Now, we are going to be taking off from the airwaves on WEVD on June the 19th. And I thought it was the Matt Rat's voice I heard, I think, from the old Vicious Vincent's World of Wrestling show, which I don't believe is on the air anymore. I think I heard from one of our listeners that Vicious Vincent is now working at PC Richards, selling some televisions. Okay, scheduling here, radio show. June 19th, we will not be on WEVD. We will be on this program, and then we'll be going to Philadelphia on our bus trip. June the 26th, the following week, we will not be on the air at all because we will be in transit on way to Hong Kong. And then the week after that, we actually will not be on the air here at this station for how many weeks? Let's take a look at the calendar here. June 26th, not on the air at all. July the 3rd, not on the air at all. July the 10th, not on the air at all. July 17th, not on the air at all. Here at this station, WNYG. However, on WEVD, we're only taking 2 weeks off, the 19th and the 26th. And then we will give you a live report from wherever we are on the 3rd of July from Southeast Asia, as well as on the 10th of July from Southeast Asia, and also on the 17th. And we will be back full force live in the studios beginning on July the 24th. So that's what we got planned upcoming. We'll go to, is this another call coming in? Bob from Point Pleasant will be next here. Bob, you're next.
How you doing, John?
Good.
Do you think if Vince McMahon gets indicted, that WCW, finally put their act together and really gain popularity?
I don't think WCW can get their act together. I really don't. Now there's all rumors about the Gagnes taking over, and if the Gagnes take over totally, I think that's the end.
Really? Like, what would they do?
They'd be running the show.
What?
They'll be running the show.
I mean, like, what will they do to ruin it?
What? Look at is there an AWA anymore?
Yeah. You're right.
Enough said.
With Paul E and Jim Crockett, are they going to get TV around here?
Well, Crockett is not involved with the promotion yet. He has a no-compete clause till November. James Hudson is running the show right now, and Paulie's booking it. They are going to get syndicated television. They are going to get this TV program on everywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds really exciting.
Yeah, it's good. It's something to look forward to because very, very exciting stuff. Some big stars involved, and just some great storylines. That's all I could say right now about it.
Can't give out any of that.
Can't give it. I promised him, and I wouldn't even want. I even told him while he was telling me. I said, "Man, I don't even want to hear no more. Tell me about these first 3 hours, and that's it. I don't want to hear nothing else because it's actually something that you're going to want to watch every week."
I can't wait. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks for your call. And we have a few more minutes to go here, and then getting ready, warming up. There he is. The Prince of Rock and Roll, Mickey B, 44 waistline and all, and he's getting ready for his 3 hours. Now, I don't know, Mickey, we have to talk about this, but while we're not here during those weeks where we're away, will you be expanding your show, or is there something we're going to talk about?
Yes, we're going to do that. I think we're going to come in, John Arezzi, and fill in for you from 10 o'clock till 2 o'clock on the, 2 weeks, right?
Actually, 4.
4 weeks. You'll be on tour for 4 weeks. Well, Mickey B will be doing 4 weeks of an extra hour of rock and roll, so we should have some fun from 10 to 2. And what are those dates?
We started off on the 26th of June, the 3rd of July, 10th of July, and the 17th. The tour will be completed by then, but we'll be in Los Angeles for a few days before we head back home.
Just think of it, you're losing John Arezzi for an hour, but you're gaining the Prince of Rock and Roll, Mr. Mickey B.
That's the ticket. Mickey B, and he'll be joining us in just a few minutes here for some great rock and roll right here at 1440 WNYG, Long Island's oldies station.
I miss Mickey.
Yeah,
I do.
I love his attitude. I love just the energy you can feel when he walks in the room. And I love also that you can hear it in your voice. You pep up when you see him. Here comes Mickey B. Like, you're always excited to see him.
Larger than life, man. What a guy.
That does run us out of Pro Wrestling This Week and brings us to Pro Wrestling Spotlight, the evening show.
Buckle up.
Opening. Yeah, buckle up. The opening, you run down the Vince stuff again, and you say Paul E's on his way, but you want to get started with Donny. So, Donny, here you are.
So, without further ado, the McMahon story is a big one. The Tom Cole story is a big one as far as hard news, and Paul E will be here, always causing a little controversy. Very happy to be back here, WEVD, for another week. Also, as I told you, if you called our 900 number last week, you know, we're going away to Southeast Asia. We're going to give you a schedule for upcoming shows here on WEVD so you know what is our schedule for the summertime. Without further ado, let's bring on Donny Laible from upstate New York. Donnie's been covering a lot of the stories that have been happening right near your neck of the woods. The Tom Cole story broke, Don. Are you with us?
Yeah, John, it's just about 8 miles away from me, and should this case go to trial here in Oneida County, I'll be sure to have a seat in the courtroom for that one.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be there myself.
Yeah, and that was a big story in the paper this week, so that'll be our lead on the capsule. As you said, once again, negative news surrounding Titan Sports, the parent company of the World Wrestling Federation, oozes from the courtroom. A $1.6 million lawsuit has been filed against Titan Sports by Tom Cole of Whitesboro, New York, in Oneida County. In published reports attributed to Cole's attorney Antonio Fega in the Utica Observer-Dispatch this week, the suit was filed for what they view as a breach of contract by Titan Sports. Cole alleges he was the victim of sexual harassment, claiming he was denied promised promotions within the company, one of which was to be a ring announcer, due to rebuffing the homosexual advances by two company officials. Well, look for World Championship Wrestling to invade Central Florida in early July. The promotion's plans are to tape 12 weeks of television matches at Disney's MGM Studios that would lead them up to their September Clash of Champions show on WTBS. Now, the shows taped in Orlando will be aired in syndication as well as on the Superstation. Well, with few details publicly known about the promotion Paul E dangerously is involved with in Texas with James Hudson, already his July scheduled TV taping has stirred tremendous excitement within the wrestling game. Not in the last decade has there been this much anticipation in the launching of a promotion, so keep listening. I hear it's going to be a real hot promotion. But don't expect to see
Johnny.
Yes, John.
Yo, will you come on, make it quick, you know? We got a lot of things to cover in this hour. Let's go, Johnny, come on.
Here you are giving him a plug and saying that...
nice guy.
Only kind of plug I need, the hair plug. Let's go. Come on, Donnie. We got a lot of things to talk about this hour. I got mail to answer. Come on, babe. Let's go. Come on, Cronkite.
Maybe the fellow with the pumpkin and his mother and L.A. Law, that person could call.
Yeah, 3 years ago. There's a lot of people that heard that show 3 years ago it's 4 years ago that are still going to tune in now. Thanks, Donnie. Come on.
All right, let me hurry up on
Okay, but one thing first before you continue, Don.
Yes.
Tomorrow, Donnie, is the big day.
Tell Paulie to be nice to me now.
Well, Donnie's going to be a father tomorrow. They're inducing labor on his wife, Barbara.
Now, they're inducing labor on his wife, but he's doing a radio show for rest. Which line is Donnie on? Which line?
Don't cut Don
I'm not going to cut him.
off.
Which line is he on?
He's on this one.
Right there. Okay, come on, Donnie. My finger's on the button.
Okay, go ahead, Don.
All righty, John.
Apparently he doesn't care.
I feel like Bill Clinton.
Apparently
I got all
doesn't
the
care
power in
about
the
your
world
firstborn.
now. Is it going to be a boy or a girl?
Boy,
Oh,
and his name will be Mark.
Mark. Well, then he takes after his dad. Go on.
All righty. Well, don't expect to see
boy.
Cactus Jack stalking WCW rings anytime soon, at least for the next 4 to 6
He has no
months.
teeth. Next item.
Cactus Jack recently underwent surgery on his left knee as well as for mending ligament damage suffered in the ring. He was released from Atlanta's Windy Hill Hospital recently and is home. But former wrestling star Don Kent, known primarily as one half of the fabulous Kangaroos. I can't do this anymore.
Don Kent. He's talking about Don Kent. We have 60 minutes here, Donnie. Come on.
The man is in a coma.
Okay.
I'm sorry to hear that. Next.
Take it away, John. I can't follow that.
Donnie, listen, I want to wish you a heartfelt congratulations tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
And listen, you hang tough. You hang in there. You give Barbara my best. And
He gave Barbara his best. That's why she's going to have a baby tomorrow.
And tomorrow, when Mark is born, I guess you're not working us with that name, right?
No.
Just the best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
We'll talk to you after the blessed event tomorrow.
Have a good day tomorrow.
Thank you, Donnie.
Goodbye, baby.
Oh, boy. That's the first time we ever did that to Don. Let me tell you that, Paul.
And it's the last time he'll be on your show. Well,
No,
I'm
I
going to
don't
go get
think
some
so.
more coffee.
Yeah, why don't you do that? And
Can we decaf?
we're expecting Dave Meltzer to join us because I really want to turn serious. I'm going to go over a couple of spots and...
Wow.
I remember that now. I remember. Yeah.
A different
Yeah, I
feeling
mean,
for the
hearing
capsule
that,
than
and it
normal.
was the day your son was
Yeah,
being born,
yeah.
and you're still
wasn't-
doing the show that night. Go ahead, Marsh.
Wasn't the week before your birthday?
Yes. Yes.
Are you and your son
so,
a week apart?
It's May 23rd, so it was maybe a little more than a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was this
And just while we're on that topic, this Sunday is my 40th wedding anniversary.
Wow. Congratulations.
Congrats.
Yeah. So get on with that. Nobody cares, Donnie. Let's go.
Yeah.
One.
I mean, it was funny, of course. You know, this is just the first of what turns into an insane show. But I want to go back with you and Paul. When did you first meet Paul?
I'm glad you asked. I have to tell you this. I was at a wrestling convention, 1988 in Memphis. At the time, Paul was working with Eddie Gilbert out of Alabama. It was Continental Wrestling. And then at that time, I think they had just both been fired because Eddie got fired, so naturally Paul goes. So Eddie, Missy, and Paul drive up from Alabama to Memphis for the convention. I used to send articles to Paul E because he did a few wrestling magazines under a different name. And I that's how I used to be in touch with him. And he was amazing. If I sent him a letter or a phone call, if I left him a voicemail, within a day or two, I would get a letter written from him. It was so quick. So the first time I meet him, and he wanted something from his car. So he gives me his keys, and he says, "You go out to my car, get me something." I go into his car, and it looked like a homeless person slept in there. He had dozens of videotapes just laying all over the back seat and lots of paperwork. And I thought I saw checks laying in the back seat. And I remember Eddie telling me, he said, "Paulie never cashes his checks. It's not about him getting paid down here. You know, obviously you knew his financial status, that he didn't, that wasn't his worries." And that's when I thought I saw some uncashed checks in the back seat. It was just a total mess, but he was so gracious and funny, and I had a really good time. But I have to tell you my Paul E story. New York Knockouts, Terry Funk and Ric Flair from Troy, New York. It was Clash of the Champions. I mean, that's an iconic match that night. Well, Paul E had been fired recently by the NWA, and I was going there. I drove up. I lived about an hour or so drive from there. I went up to see, because Eddie was going to beat Eddie Gilbert. He and Tommy Rich were staying together, which was dangerous. But so I go to the hotel room where Eddie is, and Tommy wasn't in the room yet. And I hear the shower running in the motel room. So Eddie was just working me, and I'm always taken advantage of when it comes to stuff like that. So Eddie's talking to me. We're sitting down, and you know me, I'm getting all excited and everything. You know, big show. I got a pass for the show. I'm going to drive Tommy and Eddie to the show. So I'm in the room, and when I come in, Eddie says, sit down. How you doing? He goes, oh, that's just Bobby Eaton in the shower. I didn't ask, but that's how he was setting me up. And he says to me, so you see Paulie got fired again? And I said, yeah. He says, what do you think of that guy? What do you think of Paulie? You know, I said, well, I think he's a good manager, a good talker. You know, isn't he an asshole? I mean, this guy, this New Yorker thinking, and he just kept trying to bait me into that, to say something bad about Paul E. Well, as we're talking, the next thing you know, out of the bathroom walks Paul E. He was the guy in the shower. He had the water running, and Eddie was trying to set me up to see something bad about Paul E. Paul E came into the room, and he said, good goal, Donny, good goal. And I said, oh, man, I'm glad I didn't say anything wrong or, like that.
You did the right thing,
Paul E had left. Whenever all the boys were going to the show is when Paul E drove back to New York. Mm-hmm. And as just an ending to this, in the morning, they all were leaving. They had 6:00 flights out of Albany. And I was going to take Eddie to the airport, but when Tommy Rich was coming along, I mean, when those guys are drinking, some of these guys were out of control.
Danger.
At my room about 4:00 in the morning and knocking on the door, and I just played like I was sleeping. Yeah. And I don't know how they got a ride to the airport, but I wasn't going to do that. But yeah, Paulie set me up something good in the room there, and of course, I saw him later on at your shows, and
yeah. But you didn't have any interaction with him in the 70s, right? Nothing like the late 70s.
No. I think
the 80s was the magazine stuff, and that's how you.
Yeah, I had just moved, and he was just coming up and everything. But anyway, I always had fun with him. But Paulie is always thinking, always got something going on, But he's always treated me well, with respect.
Yep, excellent.
It's kind of interesting too, because when I look at it kind of in hindsight of listening back to the clips, Paul E comes in firing off as Paul E dangerously, right? And when we get to the next couple clips with him, there's the letter that Mike sent in that accuses him of not knowing when to not be which character, and I feel like that cranked him up before he even walked in. Oh, you want to see me cranked up? I'll crank up.
Yeah. Yeah, because I did bring the letters of people that complained about his last appearance. I brought those letters so he could answer those. And Mike Memphis was one of those.
Yeah. That's cool. It's also neat that you have so much happening in your life in such a small period of time between your birthday, the birth of your son, and your anniversary, just in general over the years. It's all kind of right there.
And then looking forward to the conventions, and, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that is cool. But yeah, that was a different tone for the capsule than we normally get, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question for you about the capsule, Donny. As I've listened to a bunch of them now, you always had the capsule that was pretty well written out. You could tell you were kind of reading it off because when you listened to it morning and night, it was the same. But the other thing you did regularly was have other news bits after the capsule. You're like, and just one more thing kind of stuff. Did you have a process on what would make it into the capsule versus what was?
Yeah, I always wrote it as if it was a news report. If I was going on the air at 6:00 at a radio station, that was my background. You write as if you're writing for a listening audience, a radio audience. And I always had so many things to put in, and you can only do so much. And I always wanted to throw everything else in there, get things in, because I thought if it excited me, it's going to excite the listeners. Because I've been called a lot of things, and Mark, I'm not afraid of it. I was a fan, I still am, and it's always been difficult to separate the part of being a fan and then trying to have your composure when you're with the guys away from the arena, especially like Paul E. And also, Johnny, you remember the night we walked in Boston after the Boston show with Paul E. and Eddie and Missy were trying to find a place at night. We all hopped in the cab and went to downtown Boston looking for
a Chinese combat zone. Yeah. We wound up going to a Chinese restaurant with them.
And I'll tell you one other quick thing with Paul E. When ECW came to Boston, they were trying to do a video for the Eliminators, say, okay, they're back in town, and they were walking through the streets at night. We went very late at night after the show, trying to get people on the street to say, hey, welcome back, Eliminators. So they went looking for the combat zone to try to get some hookers to say, welcome back, Perry and John, the Eliminators. And then he goes, there's no more fucking combat zone. It's gone.
It's all gone. They cleaned it up.
I kid you not, they struggle to find hookers in the street in the wee hours of a Saturday morning / Sunday morning to get them to say, welcome back, Eliminators. But Paul E., Tommy Dreamer, and a couple other of us walked the streets. And I mean, it was like 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning looking for hookers just to talk about the Eliminators. I mean, they wanted to be that authentic. And he goes, there's no more combat zone. What are we going to do?
That's funny, man.
That's insane. It's also not what you typically think of when people are on the hunt. It's usually not for content like that.
That is true.
So that's funny. But so I wonder if that means then with your capsule, if that was more of what you felt was true news you knew to be news.
Yes.
And then afterwards was topics you wanted to talk about that you just couldn't necessarily confirm.
Yep, exactly.
That's cool. That's fun. Because you had the same things on your what I want to talk about afterwards on both morning and night. And I was like, if it's the same thing, why isn't it just I like that you had that mentality of separating it for a reason. Really cool. Let's see. Paul goes and gets his coffee. Let's see. You talk a little bit about the article that Thomas Cole was suing that you guys were talking about before, about how Vince stepped down again. And then you bring on Dave Meltzer. And Meltzer's only on for about 5 minutes or so. So I have the whole thing here because it's kind of funny to me.
But he stays on hold. Doesn't he stay on hold for the whole show?
Yes. And that comes back to
because he wants to hear it. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So, yeah, because he knew Paul was there. So this is Meltzer. You brought him on, and I just thought it was an interesting, one of the more unique interviews, I think, of his as well.
Let's bring Dave Meltzer on from the Wrestling Observer newsletter to talk about a couple of these big breaking stories. Dave, are you with us?
Hello.
Hi, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. How are you, John?
Well, it seems as here we go again. Okay, it's starting up again, and a couple big things. Of course, the McMahon resignation, the Cole lawsuit being filed, the ongoing Justice Department investigation, which sources have said it appears to be winding down to a conclusion. But as far as a decision made whether to indict or not indict, probably won't be handed down till late summer, early fall. Dave, your views on the McMahon resignation, first of all.
Well, I don't know if I have any views. It's kind of a cut and dried story there. He's still in the company. I mean, he's still a powerful person in the company, and they switched titles. I'm sure they have reasons for that. I don't, given the timing of when this happened and given everything that's going down, I don't think that's coincidental. I'm sure there's I'm not sure of anything, but, I would assume that there's some legal strategy involved and there's reasons that they want to do it that way, but whatever.
Yeah, do you get the sense that, this resignation and the Justice Department deal, just things seem to be starting to accelerate a little bit regarding this? The strategies are now starting to be planned regarding the future.
Sure strategies are being planned. I don't think there's any doubt about that strategies are being planned for whatever, if anything happens, or to avoid, if something were to happen or whatever. I mean, Vince McMahon's not a stupid person at all. And,
no.
I'm sure he's got a strategy that is being planned for whatever may or may not happen.
Mm-hmm. And the Cole situation is another story we've been following this week, and an interesting development here. Cole, don't know. I guess he's still actually under contract with the WWF.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. Officially not been terminated, even since this story has come out. Something that we're going to continue to follow here. Now, what do you have any opinions or any thoughts at all on Cole filing this lawsuit?
No, not really. I really don't have an opinion one way or the other.
Yeah.
I think we just have to wait and see, where it transpires from here.
Yeah. It's something we're going to be following with. These are two big stories this week, and something that we're going to continue to follow. Now, the Justice Department deal winding down to a close, and I wanted to get your thoughts and opinions on it. And Paul E is sitting in the other studio, just chomping at the bit to get in here. Now, also, you're just changing the subject a little bit, segueing into the 900 number project that you're involved with. You got Paul E also involved in that one. How did you find this? Is like a new deal for you. You've never done anything like this before.
No, I haven't.
What made you decide to get involved in a project like this?
I was just asked, and no one.
And that was the deal.
I was just asked, and then I said yes, and then I started changing my mind, and then they talked me into it, and now I'm doing it. Okay. I think it's pretty much that simple, actually.
Okay, but the first week is over and done with. Did you enjoy doing it this week?
Yeah, it's all right. Actually, I'm kind of excited about it because it gives me a chance to, and everyone a chance to get information quicker than ever before.
Yeah.
As far as like highlights and things like that, I think that some of the stuff. I mean, I've listened to most of the reports, not all of them, over the last week, and Terry Funk was hilarious.
Yeah, I actually heard that myself.
Yeah, Terry Funk was hilarious, and Paul E was pretty entertaining, and Steve Beverly was interesting. He's doing Rush Limbaugh, I guess, but actually,
yeah, right.
He gives his opinions, and that's what it's all about. And so, I mean, I think that people will find some stuff very entertaining with the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to bring you on a little bit because, these are stories that...
they're huge. They're, potentially huge stories out here, but at the same time, it's like they're going to be around for a long time. It's not like it's going to be a 1 week thing and then it's all gone.
Yeah, this thing is not coming to a close anytime soon.
I expect that these stories are. I think we'll be talking about stories or things like this for a long time until the thing really does come to a close, and which is when it really does come to a close. And who knows when that will be.
So I guess we have to start digging them trenches.
Yes, so yeah.
Okay, listen, Dave, I want you to plug the Wrestling Observer newsletter, which is by far the #1 wrestling publication out there today. If you have never read a copy of the Observer, you owe yourself to read it at least once, and you'll be hooked. Dave, give yourself a plug.
Okay, it's a Wrestling Observer newsletter. It comes out every week. It's Post Office Box 1228, Campbell, California, 95009, and it's $6 for 4 issues, and it covers wrestling all over the world.
Okay. Listen, Dave, thank you for coming on for this brief period of time, and Paulie's... his veins are popping out of his neck. He's wanting to run in here and reacquaint himself, I guess, with our next guest, which is going to be Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Eddie Gilbert.
Yeah. So, why don't you hang on and check it out.
All right,
keep Dave on hold.
You do keep him on hold for the whole show, it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
Was this just to put over the 900 number? Because it sounded to me like you propped up these two news stories to get Dave's input, and he had absolutely no input.
Right.
And then you go, well, I guess we'll segue into the 900 number. And then
the reason was not really specifically for the 900 number, because those were big stories. But obviously, Dave never gives an opinion. He was just reporting facts. Or sometimes I'd get a little bit more opinionated. And with Paulie in there, Paulie was giving me, I could just sense that he wanted to get back in the studio. And so it was kind of chaotic. Go ahead, Don.
I think Dave was playing it safe on those topics too, because they knew that he was influential, and he didn't want to slip up, so they could try to maybe get him in legal trouble. So, I know he gives facts, but I think sometimes maybe cases like this, I think he didn't want to commit himself to get any kind of trouble. But let me say this: I remember getting my first issue of the Wrestling Observer. This was sometime in the spring of 1986. And I can remember getting that in the mail on a Friday. and I had to read it right away. And I was blown away with everything I was. And every Friday, I couldn't wait to get that in the mail. And if it had come on a Saturday, I'm thinking, oh my God, what's happening? That was euphoric feelings. It was a time and place that was, oh my gosh, the Observer came. Leave me alone. Nobody bother me. I've got to read this now.
I mean, you were not unlike myself and others. I mean, because basically what the Observer did at that time period was it ripped the curtain down. It brought you into the inside to hear things that were really never discussed before. And this was me being an Observer subscriber before Pro Wrestling Spotlight went on the air. That's the way I felt about it. It was kind of like, this is fascinating because I never knew how all of this information was gathered. And it was just kind of each week I was like you, Friday, Saturday, whenever that would come. As soon as I saw that little folded newsletter, I opened it up and wherever I was, I stopped. And for the next hour, that's what I was doing.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Did Dave start off pretty kayfabe as in the Observer, or was it always Insider?
I think it was always Insider.
Pretty much. He did start early on. I mean, Dave was around since the 70s, too. So he had a few different incarnations of newsletters. And then when he decided to go inside, that's when it really took off. And I don't even know, what was that year? It had to be like 85. It had to be when the boom happened. Mm-hmm. When the boom happened.
I think he was a sports writer for a newspaper in Waco, Texas at the time when he started the Observer, because he started when he was working in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually have a 2-part interview with Dave. I like a long interview with Dave about his career that's in the archives that I should put up at one point for Patreon.
And John, let me say this too. Remember when his yearbook would come out? That was fabulous. I had to stop and read that. You know,
amazing publication. But anyway, we regress, and I know Don, we only have you for another 15 minutes.
That's okay.
So let's get more hilarity from.
We'll keep it moving. I just always think it's interesting. I wonder how many of the inside shows, yours included, started out pretty kayfabe one way or the other with like fan pages or fan newsletters, and just because you end up with all this access, being a fan, reporting fan style and kayfabe style, you end up an insider before you know it. Now you have all this information you want to share in a different way. Like, it's just kind of neat the way that.
Well, there were so many copycats to the Observer too. I mean, their fans would read the Observer and then put their own newsletter out using information that Dave had, and so there was a lot of that. I mean, he fed a cottage industry that was growing based on how successful the Observer was.
Yeah. Let's see. We do get Eddie Gilbert on the line. He reports to Paul E that Conway Twitty died. I'm not familiar with Conway Twitty.
Yeah, of course I'm familiar with Conway Twitty.
Yeah. It was funny because when he mentioned it, Paul just went, "Oh, okay," and then you're just like, "That's actually pretty big news where you are, isn't it, Eddie?" But this is you guys talking about the show coming up, and Paul and Eddie having a little bit of a back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand. Is this going to be a television taping on the 19th?
Well, it's kind of a secret right now. We're going to couple surprises that night, and we're going to try to make a tape of it available to everybody. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, it's going to be a big, big night for it. So
you got guys like Don Morocco coming in, I guess, and
we've got Dick Murdoch coming back. Up to the Northeast. He'll be against the Dark Patriot. We've got Salvatore Bellomo with the Super Destroyers. They're teaming up in a 3 versus 4 man match against all 3 of the Suicide Blondes and Hunter Q. Robbins III. Sandman and the Rebel are in a street fight match. Then, Paul, why don't you tell them about Tigra and Peaches?
Well, you see, they got these 2 ladies, and you see...
Paul loves Tigra, by the way.
Oh, she's like a real hot little number. Yeah. 911. Anyway, so, they've had all this bad blood between them, which has nothing to do with, feminine hygiene products. And the problem is that you see Tigra and this other chick, Peaches. Now, you can guess where she got that name, can't you, John? Anyway, they've had all this bad blood because Peaches always tries to steal Tigra's man. Peach is always interfering in Tiger's business. Peach is always butting her big fat nose into what is rightfully Tiger's. So Tiger's going to take care of Peaches. The winner will be humiliated in a cat fight on the 19th.
That's right. And I probably will step into the ring for the last time against Terry Funk.
What are you talking about the last time?
From the United States of America. So.
What do you mean last time?
Well, I figure this is the 3rd time's a charm. It seems to be.
But not for you. I'm sorry, not for your career, though, right?
Well, I never said nothing about that. I just said that it's our last time, I think, step in the ring with each other.
This is it. It's the last tango. It's the final
That's it.
showdown.
No more Terry Funk Eddie Gilbert matches after
That's
this
it.
one.
When this is over,
you guys aren't fighting anymore with each other. You and Terry. Then after this.
Well, I'm sure we'll still be fighting with each other, but not in the ring. So.
Oh, okay.
You know that goes on too. So.
Because those two matches you had previously, where I was at one of them, the I Quit match, Eddie, and let me tell you. Sitting down in the second or third row in Philadelphia, I had it rated as perhaps one of the best wrestling encounters I've ever seen, and I'm not saying that because you're on the phone with me. It's just it was brutal.
I know. I think I should have said I quit like 30 seconds into the match, and I felt a lot better the rest of the weekend. So.
And Terry was like it was like it was a wild scene in Philadelphia. And
it always means something to me, like to wrestle guy, and Paul knows this. And we've talked about a lot to be, because he'll be at ringside, and Terry Funk is like one of our heroes, and you know, we imitate him and everything like that. So this is kind of a personal match for us against Terry Funk.
Well, we're all looking forward to it, and we want to wish you guys the best of luck in Philadelphia. You know, because we'll be down there with a full bus of people. There's going to be like an autograph party afterwards. We're taking a bus of people down there, and I wish you the best of luck with the promotion, because I think the indies need to be springing up again.
Well, I appreciate it, John, because Paul and I, with this promotion here and with Ty Gordon, a lot of promotions I worked for before is like they try to keep your hands tied. You can't do this, you can't do that, and Ty just said, go do it. So this is a lot of fun for us.
You got the ball, you're running with it, and exciting things are happening from what we understand.
Whatever
I haven't been there
happens, happens, yes.
Speaking of hands being tied, are you with the blonde, the brunette, or the redhead, Eddie?
Brunette.
The brunette?
Yeah.
Tell her I said hi.
Okay.
Well, listen, go back to work, and we'll see you in Philadelphia in 2 weeks.
You mean I'm off? Is that quick?
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Why are you cutting him off?
Huh?
Why are you cutting
Well,
him
don't
off?
you want to read your hate mail?
No, I want to talk to Eddie.
Well, go ahead.
How's your dad?
Can I just say hello to everyone in the city?
Go right ahead.
Yeah, I want to say hello to everyone in the city, and Paul E's been already getting me out into the city every Thursday night, where we had an accident a couple weeks ago. But
Eddie, there's somebody here that wants to say hi to you. Hold on.
Okay.
Come here.
Hope it's Angelo.
No, it's not. No, it's not Angelo.
It's not Angelo.
I
know who it is.
Who is it? Eddie, you want to know how big you're going to be up to June 19th?
It's Matt.
It's Matt. Matty, say hi to Eddie.
Eddie. Matty.
What's up, boy?
I got to go on that note.
He's hanging up already, Matt.
Okay.
All right, listen, Eddie.
Thanks, John.
Eddie, we're going to be stupid live.
I think we're already there.
Okay.
John, thanks.
Take care, Eddie.
Okay, man.
All right. And we're taking a bus trip to Philadelphia. If you want to participate with us on this bus trip, we have 2 packages available, $75 a person. Get your first row seats in a party, and the round-trip bus fare, $60 a person, second or third row seats. We got about 10 spaces left. That's about it. They're going quick. Give me a call after the show or sometime tomorrow at this number, 516-587-2861. That number again, 516-587-2861.
Is that your personal phone number?
It's my personal phone number?
Yeah,
It's my business phone number.
Oh, okay. That's your office.
In other words, call the office.
Do you have a secretary?
Yeah, matter of fact, I have a part-time secretary.
Is she cute?
Yes, very cute.
Cool. Don't ask her out or anything. She might be getting the Coles lawyers over there and sue you.
Come on now. Let's not let's talk about the lawsuit that was in this newspaper. I don't feel like getting into that anymore. We've covered that tonight, and that's saved for another show. We're going to return with...
Did we ever go away?
The mail segment, the hate mail. Paul E. dangerously answers his critics.
Is there a female segment on this show?
I don't know, is there?
That's another lawsuit.
That's another lawsuit. Bruce,
you're just asking for trouble, aren't you?
Why don't you come in here and host tonight, because I think I'm getting the hell out of here.
Is Bruce Pritchard here? I love him!
I heard he's been around some independent shows recently. We won't get into that. All right, listen, we'll return after this.
What will we get into?
I like how with Paul, you had to just go to the break. You would never just let the pause happen. You had to be like, all right, and now it's great.
I mean, it was getting chaotic already, and I just this was just a precursor to what is about to happen.
Yeah. Paul, buckle up, because Paul gets ready.
Yeah, it was good to hear Eddie, though. I mean, missed that guy.
He used to do a mean imitation of Terry Funk. The first time I met him, 1978, we're in Knoxville, and we drove to a show that Southeastern Championship Wrestling had, and Eddie would go, I'm gonna take those long, lanky legs. You're Ron Fuller. Yes, I am. He was doing this Terry Funk thing the whole time driving. It was really cool. That's when he was about 18 years old. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. We met him when he was a teenager. Right?
Yeah.
With his brother, Doug. Yeah. Pritchard's, those conventions with Tom Pritchard, we know these guys. We the WFAA conventions. It was crazy.
Now, John, when he was just talking about the shows in Philadelphia, that was Eastern Championship Wrestling when it was Todd Gordon.
Yeah, Todd was the backer. Todd was running the show. He brought Eddie in as a booker, and then not too long after this is when things started. I don't know how long it took, but the lifelong friendship then became sour, and Paul was in, Eddie was out, and Eddie passed. And what was it, 95?
Yeah.
Back to the fun stuff, Marsh.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to hear how Paul handles your first batch of callers?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we need to talk about even my sponsors. Do we get into the sponsors and those 2 sponsors' contracts running out and all that stuff? So
yeah, I kept one of the ads because during the ad, I think Paul decides that the ad break is over, but you're not aware of that because he just starts bringing in callers.
Got it. All right, let's go to it. Let's go to what you got there, buddy.
Now back to John Arezzi.
Here we go. Yeah, a little Doink the Clown music.
Okay, let's take care of first order business, right?
What are we going to do?
We did this last time. Now, everybody that's called has been on hold for over half an hour. Everybody that's called has been on hold for over half an hour. Nobody knew who the guest was going to be. Nobody knew what the topic of the day was going to be. Nobody knew what we were going to talk about. Nobody knew the top news story of the week. In other words, you people just called to ask your selfish little nitpicky like, hey, whatever happened to Bruno Sammartino's kid? Well, here's what we're going to do. See this line? Goodbye. Hello. Goodbye. You're all off the air. You know why? Because now if you call, you can talk to me. Paul, wait. Can we take this call?
You want to take it right without screening it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
You're on.
Did you know I was going to be on this show?
What's going to be on here?
Goodbye. Hello.
Go ahead. You're on.
You're up. Hello.
Hello. You're on.
Goodbye. Hello. Thank you. Oh, Mom, thanks for calling very much. I'll have the check in the mail. Get Dad to sign the papers, Mom. Get Dad to Hello?
Yes, it's Paul E there.
Paul, who's this?
This is Eddie from New York.
He's a cop. I know this guy. He's a cop. How you doing?
True, sir?
Yeah.
Are you not a cop?
You should work on your attitude. You gave me a tough time in the city.
Hey, thanks for fixing that ticket for me, copper. He was a nice guy,
You actually know this guy?
Yeah, he's a cop. I know him. He's a sergeant.
Well, that's pretty good, man.
Yeah. Anyway,
you got all your friends calling in?
Well, I was dating this girl, and he pulled me over in the car, and I swear there was no $20 exchange. Eddie, hold on. Hello.
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 Hi, may I get on the show tonight?
Yeah, who do you want to talk to?
I'd like to speak to John.
Yeah, good. Hold on.
Hi.
Yeah, what do you want? What's the matter?
I'd like to speak to John.
Oh, that's upstairs. Hold on. Janitor.
Yes. Hi.
Yeah, you feel something?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, use a mop.
Okay, 2 questions, jerk off. Okay.
Who?
Here we go.
Oh, he's upstairs. Hold on.
Okay.
Hello, self-indulgence.
Paul, you have to work.
Hello. Okay, see, now we've cleared the lines. Hold on. Are you still there, copper? Hello.
What's up?
What's up, cop? How you doing?
Not bad.
Yeah, you know. Hey, hold on a minute, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we can talk.
And we're off.
Yep.
Unbelievable energy.
Yeah. I mean, it was just insanity. And I was, you feel bad for people who waited online, for half an hour and trying to get through. And then he cuts everybody off. And then he's intimidating, yelling, doing whatever he's doing to each and every one of them, except for the guy that called in who was the cop. He kept him on hold.
He kept him on hold a lot. He goes back to him a number of times. It's pretty great.
Funny, man.
But he cleared the line, hung up on everybody. It's pretty neat. It's neat. And you can even hear it in yours. You don't even want to screen it? No, go ahead.
Right. I had just really about that time given up. It's like I lost control of it, and it wasn't coming back for the remainder of the program.
No.
So all I had to do was sit back and just witness it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember where you say it, but at some point you say, "I'm just moderating, Bruce."
I'm telling you, there's been so many colorful and fascinating people in the wrestling business over the decades, and Paulie's right up there as far as, Rick Martel once told me, he said, Bobby Heenan told him, he said, wrestling people are cut out for two professions, one being a criminal and the other working in a circus. And, they're special. And Paul E is made to be in the business of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
He really is.
Really.
He's just been a natural all his life doing this.
And he's still there doing it.
And he's
in a big way.
Yep.
Yeah, he's no small part. Do you remember Mike Memphis, Donny?
Yes. And then, of course, I always bring up that he was in an episode of Sopranos.
Yeah.
Got whacked by Big Pussy, man.
Yeah.
It's the only picture I can find of him online. That's why if you look at my drawing, it's just a screenshot from Sopranos.
I think
we've been looking for him. We can't find him. We would have loved to have had him on.
He and Georgianne were close because she always used to talk to me about him.
Yeah.
But Paulie,
his name is Michael Lepori, and he was from the Bronx, I believe, because he was one of the first members ever of the Freddie Blassie fan club.
That's so cool.
And he got to know Freddie, and he got a lot of Freddie's outfits, and even the Pacific Coast title. I think Mike had gotten all that stuff from Fred.
Did you ever get one of his teeth files?
I did not.
Have.
I did not.
John, I don't know if you saw recently, and it could have been on one of your social media accounts. Somebody had said they posted a picture of Freddie Blassie's house where he used to live, and the gentleman wrote on there. He said, "I pass this every day, going and coming home from work," and he had the picture where Freddie Blassie lived.
Yeah, it was a modest house too. Very modest house.
I think that was right near where Paul E lived, or his family.
Yeah, Freddie was in Hartsdale, and Paul was in Scarsdale.
I always think it's neat the amount of guys who are successful in that who could probably have something lavish but don't. You know what I mean? Like they just kind of have a normal looking house in a normal neighborhood. Like I've known a few of them where I've seen that. So, so this is where you get into the letters, and it starts off with a specific letter, and it happens to be from Mike Memphis.
Listen, you want to answer some of this mail?
Let's read this
We're not going to have time for a lot of it now,
Well, I
know one letter really irked you.
Yeah, well, there's this guy out there, and he thinks he's Elvis Presley. He has about as much personality as Elvis because Elvis has been dead for about 15 years. And he writes, Dear John, I never write to complain, but of course he does now, right? But I'm really pissed off. Oh, poor baby. It says I am, and it says I apostrophe AM. That's what's that? Am I right? Am I lying? Am I exaggerating?
Yeah.
I am I apostrophe AM. You stupid, ignorant Elvis wannabe you. A very big wrestling fan, and when I can, I try to catch your radio show. I was driving home from a gig I did in Manhattan last Saturday night. Now, I got the largest nightclub promoter in New York City today. Matt the Matt is in the other room. That's the guy that said hello to Eddie Gilbert, right? Matt the Matt, have you ever heard of Mike Memphis? No. See? Oh, it must have been a really big gig. Where did you play? The Dead Musicians Lounge over on 13th and 9th? Okay. And I was very happy that I caught your show. I like Paulie. However, it is not hard to understand why he is. Now, what does that say?
Unemployed.
I'm unemployed? Guess again, jerk. He's supposed to be a celebrity in show business, etc., etc., etc. Even though he is a heel and can berate the fan all he wants, he carried it a bit too far by hanging up several times on your callers. Hold on a minute. Hey, did I hang up on you ever? Hello?
Hello?
Did I ever hang up on you?
No.
Good, I just did. Did I ever hang up on you? Hello, goodbye. Hey, cop.
Yo.
Did I ever hang up on you before?
Never.
Good, hold on. See, even a cop says I never hung up on him. I mean, what do you know? You're an Elvis impersonator. In New York, you don't even go to Las Vegas. You can't even play Atlantic City, you loser. Hold on. Although the callers may be young kids. Hold on. Hey, are you a young kid or a teenager? Hello. Turn off your radio. Are you a young kid or a teenager? Good, thanks. Hey, cop, are you a young kid or a teenager? Cop.
Yo.
Are you a young kid or a teenager?
Young kid.
Young kid. Good. And he's a New York City cop. That's why the city's in this kind of shape today. Hey, are you a young kid or a teenager?
Yes, hi.
Yeah, oh, I guess you are. Sorry. Go to your bar mitzvah. Hello. Are you a young kid or a teenager?
Hello?
Hello? How are you?
Are you a young kid or a teenager, the man wants to know?
I'm a teenager.
How old are you?
Goodbye. Anyway, hey, you a young kid or a teenager? Thank you. Thanks for calling. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Hey, hold on, cop. Anyway, so I just took 9 calls. Not one was a young kid or a teenager. Okay. We subscribe to your autograph sessions, your conventions, your events, your newsletter, your booster club. You got a lot of businesses going here. How come you always ask me for money? Anyway, that's bad business. Here we go. I'm about to die. Here. I guess he doesn't know when to turn off the Paul E character for a few moments. And he goes on and on and on and on. Well, let me tell you something, Mike Memphis. There's a difference between Paul Heyman and Paul E Dangerously. Paul Heyman came on this show and talked about high-definition TV. Paul Heyman came on this show and talked about Jim Crockett Jr. Paul Heyman came on this show and talked about Jim Hudson. He talked about it straight down the line. He talked about it like a normal human being, like a businessman, like somebody in show business, like somebody in wrestling, like somebody who's producing and booking behind the scenes. But there's a difference between Paul Heyman and Paul E Dangerously. And until you learn the fact that people who listen to this show don't always read the Wrestling Observer newsletter, don't always subscribe to the Inside Sheet, don't just read the trade papers, that there are some actual fans that listen to this show, maybe you know the difference between Paul Heyman and Paul E Dangerously. Case in point, who the hell is this?
Johnny Arezzi, Mike Memphis.
Oh, well, guess what?
Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Obviously, you haven't been listening to the past 20 minutes because it ain't John Arezzi taking your call. It's me. Not Paul Heyman, not John Arezzi, Paul E Dangerously.
And today he's Paul Heyman.
Today he's insane.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the beginning of quite a contentious conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a feeling, because if you think about what he did prior to this reading of this letter, it was all of those things, hanging up on people, not showing the difference, and being the heel. I mean, he was being mean to Donny for no reason about him having a kid the next day, you know?
John, I have to ask you this question. When you were with him when you went over to Southeast Asia, how long was he there for the whole tour? What was he like, for an extended period of time spending with him?
He was brilliant. I mean, the problem I had was that, I wanted him to book it. Jake wanted to book it. And it was like this internal back and forth. And Paulie just threw his hands up and says, I'll do it. I'll help him. But Paul only stayed for 1 week and then he left. He just left. He didn't stay for the entire time. But, at that, he got a lot of business done, between Ted Petty, Mike Dorham, Conan, all, he leveraged himself and he kind of saw and met people, and he had a good time. He enjoyed it, but he was in and out of there pretty quick. He wasn't there for the 2.5 weeks that we were there.
Was it as the days went on? Was it harder to work with him or communicate with him or anything like that?
No, he just kept to himself a lot. I mean, he really did. He didn't go out and party because there was a lot of wild shit going on that overseas tour. I mean, there was a lot. I mean, I was over my head trying to keep people not only out of jail, but keep people from being executed in public.
Yeah, over there.
Narcotics and the hookers, and there was just so much going on. It was crazy, and everybody. One of the promoters took us to this place, and everybody got food poisoning from the restaurant. Everyone. So it was quite an interesting experience.
And John, the times that I was around Paul E with ECW, when they would come to New England, the guys would be out. They'd be in a certain room. They'd go out for a party, and it said, never saw Paul E. He was always kept his distance from the guys.
But the thing is, his work ethic and his promos, because I got all of that on video. I mean, the promos that he did, the in-ring work with, Powers of Pain and Bob Orton and DDP. I mean, all of that is on video, and I'm going to be sharing. There's a lot of it up on the Patreon account right now, but there's a lot more to share. And his work ethic, the telephone he had with it. I mean, he was Paul E, man. He was like this incredible talent in the ring, and he came up with some of those ideas because we had that crazy 8-person tag team match that was Paul E's idea. It was one of the Mexican minis on each side there was a woman on each side, Medusa on one side, Wendy Richter on the other. The Power Twins was split up, like, so one twin on one side, the other twin on the other side. And then there was like Ted Petty. I mean, it was like this incredible 8-person tag team match. It was a total, it was like the preeminent mixed tag team match. A little person, a woman, a twin, and a regular wrestler. And Conan on one side and Ted Petty on the other. So it was crazy.
I never. He was always business. I never saw him out. I never saw him out drinking or anything. Nope. Always dedicated to the show.
Yeah, that's interesting because we've also always heard of him even here. He's always at, what was it, the Viper Lounge or whatever?
The China Club.
The China Club?
City. Yeah.
And Studio 54 came up a few times. So the fact that he was at those places.
He actually was the head of promotion for Studio 54 for a while.
Yeah.
And its heyday in the 70s even. Late 70s or 80s, mid 80s, early 80s, whatever. But yeah, but I never saw Paul E drunk or on anything. Ever.
Me too, yeah.
That's pretty cool. It's really cool. Because, he clearly was around enough. You didn't have to choose to do that. So
I'll tell you, Marsh, myself, I don't drink, but I've always been around. I like being around the guys after the show, and I like being around the action. But I've never drank beer or liquor or anything like that. It's kind of fun watching other people. But
right. Well, you've seen me in my heyday too, haven't you, my friend?
Yeah.
Did Donnie get you home a couple of times?
But nothing.
He saved my life.
Nothing could beat the things that I witnessed with ECW. Nothing. I mean, those guys were at a different level than.
We will get into that in another episode. I promise you. Well, not all the specifics, but there's enough. There's enough interesting stuff to talk about. Let's go back to this.
I'm going to have to get going, Johnny.
All right. Listen, Don, my friend, it was great to see you. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll bring you back in a few weeks to get that once we get that Texas show, you're back on and we'll have fun with it.
I'd like to see it. Yeah. All right, Marsh, take care. Johnny, have a good rest of the show.
Great to see you.
Thank you so much, Johnny.
Bye now.
Bye. What a great guy.
Oh, he's good. He was able to get out of the studio right away on his own. Most of the guys stumble for a bit. So
yeah, and what really with Don too. I mean, he has a much better memory than me because this was kind of he remembers this stuff like it happened yesterday. So that's why I'm really curious about when we do that show from Texas. He's going to have a lot of great stories there.
It's so cool. Yeah. I like having him on because of those stories too. We don't have too many clips left anyhow, but I like to be able to fill in between with Donnie's stories because
yes,
like you said, he's got that memory and it just sparks another memory. And hey, having that stuff recorded and out there, that's just as important as reliving the other stuff too,
Very true.
So this is the second part. This is, as you heard at the end of the last clip, Mike Memphis called in. Did you already have Mike on the line?
Not to my knowledge, no. Unless Bruce might have. Bruce, because he's in the other room producing. Maybe Bruce called him.
Yeah, and said, hey, do you want to get on? Because that would also explain why all of a sudden Paul said, what? Who's here? And then does it. I wonder if Bruce was knocking on the window and was like, line 2 or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mike and Paul have a lovely, cordial conversation.
Yeah.
Now, you got a letter. You want to write a letter to complain about me. You got something to say, Big Shot. Where do you want to say?
First of all, John. And
no,
Paul.
It ain't John. It's me you're
all right,
talking
Paul,
to.
First of all, I played.
And it's Paul E.
Paul E, yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yes, sir.
Go on.
Paul E, I have played Las Vegas 6 times.
Where'd you play?
Legends in Concert.
Oh, Legends in Concert. That, I'll be very honest with you. I happened to see when I was staying at the Mirage, which is one of the big hotels there. Where does Legends in Concert play?
The Imperial Palace Hotel, the Legends in Concert show, which, by the way, Mr. Paulie, I won Entertainer of the Year for all the celebrity lookalikes in Las Vegas.
At that crappy little prostitute-ridden hotel, that's where you want to ply your trade? How come you don't play the Mirage? How come you don't play the Golden Nugget? How come you don't play Caesar's Palace? You know why? Because you just won a $50,000. Did you do that movie where all the Elvis impersonators?
There was 3 movies.
Honeymoon in Vegas. Honeymoon in Vegas. You won of what? 50 Elvis impersonators? You know, I'm sitting there watching the screen. Am I going to go, oh, look, there's Mike Memphis. He's one of the 50. That's a real impressive thing that you did.
Well, no, Tim, you're absolutely right. But how I look at it is what I grossed last year in income.
Hold on, Mike, hold on.
Yes, sir.
John, how you doing?
I'm just sitting back and listening.
Okay, go on.
And Paul E,
it's only $20 a minute to be here.
It's what I grossed last year in income. And I want to thank you, Mr. Paul E. I'd like to thank you because whether you berate me or not, I'm getting a lot of my name mentioned a lot on the show tonight. So I appreciate it, Paul E. I really do. Paul E, do you remember the first time I met you, sir?
Yeah, I was probably 13 years old in Madison Square Garden.
No, it was in Queens in some lady's house, Corrine Beige.
Oh, now there was a real success story, huh?
I met you in there.
Another winner you hooked up with.
Hook up with her. I came there because I wanted to meet you. You were from the magazine. I was a fan of yours, and I still am.
Well, you should be. Then why do you write letters to complain? He could have thrown me off the air. This guy might never have had me on. You could have cost me the little publicity I get in New York nowadays. Hey, why don't you call the Slammer and tell him never to write about me, too?
But not, of course, your publicity because
you complained about me, you jerk. You wrote a hate mail about me. You said, let me read this to you. I got it right here. Let me open this up right here. Hold on. I want to read this to you, you Elvis wannabe. You Priscilla Presley scoundrel little psycho. What do you call those guys that follow everybody around? The stalker. Yeah, you stalker. But listen to this.
I'm not saying that about him, though. That's your opinion.
If I were a caller and he berated me, fine, it's expected. He's a heel. I shouldn't call in if he's there and I don't want to be berated, but not hung up on. Don't disrespect me. Paul E's response to all this would be, hey, and then there's a word there that means fornication. You, Mike Memphis, but I'm not unemployed. I made 3 movies and 3 TV commercials. So let me ask you this. If you walk down the streets or if you come into the China Club or you go to Mr. Fuji's Tropicana on a Thursday night, which is the hottest club in New York City, how many people would recognize you?
Paulie, I've been written up in the China Club no less than a dozen times in many periodicals, of which I'd be glad to forward them all to you.
Wrestling magazines, not Page 6, not Linda Stacy's column in the Daily News, not Richard Johnson's column. Strike out. Wrong answer. Try it again. Then don't tell me that George Napolitano used to print your pictures in the Madison Square Garden program, because nobody gives a damn about that.
And I've never been in a program from George Napolitano.
Yes, you have. See, you don't even know when you don't get publicity. Yes, you were. Yes, you were, you jerk.
It was not George Napolitano. That's where you have your information wrong. I had a 5x7 color shot with me and Gary Coleman in the Star because I was in the China Club about 2 months ago. So I do get publicity.
So wait a minute. So you go around with 3'11" dwarves who used to be on TV a decade ago. Hey, listen, I'll tell you what. Maybe I'll go into a car and hang out with Mason Reese and I'll get myself in the Star too.
Yeah, you may. You could use the exposure, Paulie.
I don't need it. Hey, you want to see exposure? Hold on. Everybody stand back from the window now. Paulie's going to show you what exposure's all about. And I won't have to jump up all that high, if you know what I mean, to reach the window.
See you later.
Get your magnifying glasses out, folks.
Oh, come on, Elvis. Give me something better. Talk about Scylla. Take a few Placidales. Come on, Elvis.
That's right, man. Okay, Red, Sonny, give me the Percodane out of the top shelf. I can poke fun.
Oh, no, hold it. Now, wait a minute. Now, you just wrote a letter about me complaining that I treated people with disrespect, that I hung up on people, and here you are, an entertainer, a celebrity, a guy whose picture has been in Star Magazine, and you're telling kids to take Percocets? Painkillers? Prescription drugs? What the hell's wrong with you?
I've been on Oprah, Sally Jesse, Donahue, and Geraldo.
As what?
As Elvis. A full hour. A full hour.
So you can't even go as yourself, right? You go as somebody else's persona.
No, I go as Mike Memphis, who is an Elvis lookalike, a comedian, an actor.
I'm going to tell you how we can solve all this right now, okay? Do you know what they mean, and this is not a gynecological term, but do you know what they mean by the power of the finger?
Mm-hmm.
Do you? Check this one out. Hello, you're on the air.
Wow. Okay, that's...
Wow. Nice conversation, hearing each other out, taking in both sides of the story.
You know, you have to feel bad for Mike. I mean, but he didn't make it any better for himself because he continued on. And once you start feeding a guy like Paul stuff that he could just jump on and dissect and ram it back up your butt, yeah, Mike could have just made his point and hung up, but he kept going on and he kept riling him up even more.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was out of control, man.
And I like even part of it, you can just hear yourself further away from the mic. See ya.
Yeah.
You just like walked out.
Yeah. I probably had to light a cigarette up. Yeah, in the other room. Yeah, it was crazy.
Like I said before, I don't have much for notes here at this point because the show is just kind of off the rails and he's going back and forth.
Yeah.
I would say the one thing that I didn't pull the clip of that I did have a note of is the caller did call in for you asking about the Von Erichs. He asked about how one of them passed, which was a suicide as well, and asked if any of the Von Erichs had any kids. And you were unaware of if any of them had kids. And that was the only time in this whole thing that Paul Heyman kind of clicked in a very regular tone and voice. He goes, Kevin has a child, and said the kid's name, and I forget which one he named.
On it. Okay.
And that was the only time. Then he goes back to, boom, oh, you're on the air. Like, it was kind of neat to hear that little moment of.
Yeah. And there's a lot more, obviously, on this show. I mean, from all the time. He kept checking in with Meltzer, too. David, you're still there, and Dave would be like laughing on the line, just holding.
Yes.
So if anyone wants to hear that in its entirety, it's up on Patreon, patreon.com/John Arezzi.
Yep. Here's where you go into an ad break after a lot of this. And I just kind of kept it because Paul's not stopping in any of this. Like,
no.
We've talked about it in the past.
And it was really a very tumultuous episode because of my two major sponsors' contracts running out after that show. Yeah. And the week before, we were at the Holbrook Paints with about 400 people with Jake. So it drew for Jake, but the contracts for both of those main advertisers, the sponsors of the program, both ran out simultaneously.
Because also at the same time, I can understand being a paint store and being like, oh, we'll get 400 people in here at one time to see Jake. But on the flip side, if I'm going someplace to buy an 8x10 of a dude and take a Polaroid, I'm not also walking out with 3 gallons of paint. Like, it just happens to be where they are. Right.
It wasn't the best advertiser for a pro wrestling talk show.
It's just because it doesn't quite match. When I met John Cena, it was in a grocery store. They did a meet and greet in a grocery store because he was doing a drink. Actually, this one right here, Thomas Ashbourne Old Fashioned, John Cena one. And it was, if you bought the bottle, he'd sign the bottle and get a photo with him. And I was like, okay, cool. So we went in there and bought a couple bottles because they didn't really have like much of a limit. We didn't buy like a ton. And then afterwards, we were just in a grocery store and we just driven from California or from Arizona. So we did walk around and buy a few things. And I was like, this is smart. You're selling a drink. You're getting people through here. But that's way different than paint.
Yeah.
Hey,
it was through Mickey B. Mickey set me up. I mean, Mickey was this huge contractor in New York City. Aside from this Prince of Rock and Roll stuff, he had the contract for all the Trump properties, and I guess his distributor was Holbrook Paints, and he was good friends with them, and he hooked me up, and they kept me on the air for a lot of months, but it was about to end.
Yeah, I just think they expected more than they should have. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was a good partnership for sure because you got their name out there.
Yeah.
But there's only so much you can do.
Yes.
They're all like,
create the awareness, but you can't, lead people in by the hand.
And I am willing to bet they made sales based on you, just not as much as they would have liked.
Right. Agree.
But here it is. Here's one of the ads with the Paul.
You're on the air.
Okay.
Hey, yo, turn off your radio.
Hello?
We got to take another break real quick,
Hello?
okay? We got to take a break.
Hey, guess what? You called too late. Bye.
Okay. What we're going to do is this. We're going to take a break. We're going to tell you about a couple of the sponsors here, and, of course, one of which right now is one of, actually...
they have the best
Divine Wood Furniture. Remember Divine Wood and Sheriff Philip A. Grimaldi's public car auctions?
If you're looking for a used car, check out Sheriff Philip A. Grimaldi's public car auctions. Auctions on family cars, sports cars, vans, and trucks by auctioneer Dennis
Illustra.
Yeah, John Gotti's cousin. Anyway,
let me tell you why we're reading the spot also.
Why?
Their contract is also up with us.
Oh, you need another sponsor.
So we're hoping that the response from tonight's commercial read will entice them to come back on to help sponsor this program.
All auctions begin at 2 p.m. Call Dennis at 718-833-1334. 718-833-1334.
Tell them the number, John.
Okay.
That's right.
Also, we got some upcoming auctions. June 9th, this coming week, at Solid Gold Towing. 578 Cozine Avenue, right behind Starrett City. 9:30 inspection for that one. 10 a.m. auction. Monday, June 14th at Autorama, 475 Exterior Street in the Bronx, off the Major Deegan Highway. Inspection 1:30 there, auction at 2. June 22nd, Jamaica Towing, 107-50, 180th Street. 1:30 auction, 2 p.m. auction. June 23rd at Solid Gold on a Wednesday. And June 25th at the Gap Towing. Inspection 1:30 auction 2.
You know, I bet all your listeners actually go to Sheriff Grimaldi.
Philip A. Grimaldi.
Let's find out, okay? Hey, do you go to Sheriff Grimaldi?
Enema.
Enema. Ladies and gentlemen, I have some sad news today. Besides Don Kent being in a coma, besides the death of Conway Twitty, Sheriff Grimaldi has had an enema. Sheriff Grimaldi is repeating the top story. God. Sheriff Grimaldi has had an enema. Do you go to Sheriff Grimaldi?
Hello?
Hello?
Do you go to Sheriff Grimaldi? Then you can't be on our show. Do you go to Sheriff Grimaldi?
Hello, yes.
You do? What's the last car you bought from him?
Your penis.
Thank you very much. What's...
They're getting out of control.
That's that English model, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's from the phallic line. Hello.
We got to go to a break. Yeah.
No, he's not here. Call back.
Okay, we'll be back to take your calls and comments. And, geez, I hope we're back next week.
Do you actually have an FCC license?
Myself personally, yes, I do.
Not for long.
Yeah. We'll be back after this.
Yep.
How do you get an FCC license?
Well, you don't need one any longer, but back in the day, you had to take a test to get a broadcast endorsement from the FCC.
Yeah.
And the college, the junior college I went to initially before I went over to Emerson, I went to Graham Junior College, and my associate's degree in radio, you had to pass the FCC test to get your license in order to qualify for graduation.
And it was all about more or less what you can and can't do on radio, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I'm gonna disclose a little something to you. A lot of my friends didn't pass that test.
Yeah.
They didn't get that. It was called a stamp, which was a broadcast endorsement to get your associate's degree. And I had several. When I stayed at the college during the summer, work study program, and they put me in the admissions office, and I had that stamp, and I made sure that all my friends got the ones who failed got their associate's degrees. I stamped them.
Like, how much trouble can anyone get into on the radio? Dunk, dunk.
I mean, but it was just kind of because it was a test. It was, you had to know all of these, specifics. And I wound up staying an extra year there to get a television production license. There was no FCC license in that. And so I got my second degree from Graham, and the college went under in 79. I transferred over to Emerson to get my bachelor's. But I remember that now that you're bringing it up, because there were several of my friends who were like, they didn't get their diplomas because of that until
you got in.
Yeah.
Did any of them, and obviously don't say any names, but did any of them go on to continue to do a ton of broadcasting?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
One guy who's a very prominent name in radio today.
Yeah. Still
active as a program director in a major market.
So he got happy at one point that the license was no longer needed. But I assume if they saw the associates, they didn't want to see the license. They assumed you had it.
Yeah, but it was kind of a ripoff anyway, I think.
Yeah.
With the college. I mean, you study there, you get your grades. What do you need? You don't need this. What do you need this license for?
Yeah.
Because it was really, if you were going to be an engineer, I would see the value of the FCC license if you were an engineer, but not somebody who turns a microphone on or is playing records at the time, or being a DJ. You didn't need no FCC license for that. So they abolished it not too long after that. And sometime, I believe, by the 1980, 81, it was gone. You didn't even need it anymore.
Oh, so you just kind of had one there. It's kind of the same with IT, man. When I was in there, a lot of them wanted you to have your A+ certification.
Yeah.
And those test questions were like some of the most benign, obsolete questions, like how many pins are on a piece of the first type of RAM. Doesn't matter.
Shit.
Yeah. Doesn't matter how many pins were there. You're never going to see it again.
Right.
But if you had a degree but not the A+, they weighted more on the A+. I was like, that's the most worthless part of it. So it was just the weirdest thing. So I get what you mean by radio not needing it.
Didn't need it.
But I just thought that was interesting when he said that. But yeah, I like that the callers are coming in and just getting one word out. Enema. What kind of card you buy? Your penis. So funny.
He deserved it.
Yeah. And at a certain point, you're laughing along. But are you frustrated at Paul?
Absolutely.
Kind of
I am totally I'm mortified in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's fun. He's a great personality to have, but he was for this appearance at any appearance he ever did on my show.
Yeah.
This one was the only one that I wish I did not invite him to come along on the show. I didn't.
This one you marked down as bad idea.
Bad idea.
That was a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also know coming up that you're going to go spend a couple of weeks with him on the road after this, and you're already like, am I going to even come back to a show?
I didn't know.
Yeah. So you're tangled up in business with a dude who might have just ruined your career.
Right. Well, I mean, that's why this one was really the last. This was the last regular appearance of Pro Wrestling Spotlight on WEVD, with the exception of the two shows that I sent over from that I called in from Southeast Asia, and those were both half-hour shows. So when we get to those shows in the next few weeks, we'll review both of them at the same time, the July 3rd and the July 10th, because they're both 28-minute shows.
Yeah, for sure. So was this the last time Paul was in studio?
Yes, at least in this era.
Yeah.
Because as the show progresses and we go back to WNYG for the remainder, and then I sign off with the last show, which when I quit, it was November 93, final show. And then I go back to WGBB in August of 94, and then Paul E, I think Paul E calls in a number of times.
Yeah.
But I think this could be the very last in-studio appearance of Paul E in the studio at Pro Wrestling Spotlight.
That's my hunch. You couldn't give him access to those buttons. Not after this.
Well, it was didn't want to bring him back to NYG, and with GBB, I mean, yeah, then there's a lot of hilarity when we get to that 1994 stuff.
Okay. I got two more clips and absolutely no notes. So one of them says callers and one of them says final Paul clip. So this one's going to be a batch of callers. I assume some get through.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay, so what'd you do after the redhead came in, John?
By the way, the 900 number that we're all participating in here, Paulie, you had a very good segment today. I listened to it.
Of course I did.
900-903-903 and
If you call in the next 15 minutes, you can still hear my hotline segment.
That's right.
I feel like Jim Ross.
After 12 o'clock.
Call the hotline. Call the Real Wrestling Hotline. It's great. And listen to my radio show. It's hosted by Joe Pedicino. Thank you very much.
Did you hear Jim Herd last week on the program?
On your program?
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, I listened to Jim Herd. Hello, wrestling fan. This is Jim Herd.
He did explain the ding-dongs to us also. It was very good. Well, I am on the hotline tomorrow, and I tell you things that I can't even have time to talk about tonight. That's why
Are you still the cop?
Paul, you still on? Oh, come on, homo, get off.
That ain't the cop.
You got a lot of fans.
I don't know if that's a nerve now.
Who's that?
Really? Is that funny?
Huh?
Yeah, what do you want?
You're on the air. They hung up already.
No, they're still on. What do you want?
Hello?
Hello?
Are you there? What's your name?
What's up, babe?
Who is this?
This is Jody.
Jody, how you doing?
Okay.
What do you want, Jody? Come on. Don't be from Jersey.
Hi, Marie.
Hi, Marie.
Yeah, that's what I wanted
okay,
to say.
thank you very much. This is not the lesbian dateline. Please call back at 1 a.m. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, yeah, what do you need?
John.
Yeah,
John, it's Frank. Last year I called you, and I left a message for you to get in touch with Dennis from Divinewood as a...
Hey, how you doing, Frank?
All right, buddy.
Seemed that worked out.
I'm glad it did. See, I'm all in your corner, but, John, you lower your standards by putting this pathetic has-been on.
Thank you very much.
Whoa. Let him talk.
Let him talk.
Nobody wants this jerk. He was thrown out of WCW. He crawled on his hands and knees.
You're right, and what a fine product
Billy
they have
Watts,
now. What a fine product they have now that I'm gone.
Begging him to give him a job.
Who
He
did I
comes on
beg?
here.
I begged Cowboy Bill Watts. Hey, I tell you what, why don't you beg to call up this station? Yeah, what do you want? Hello.
You know,
welcome to the Self Helpline.
Hey, Paul, I'd like to know if you heard that new Von Erich tribute song.
Yeah, I sure have. Listen to it. Yeah. That's good. We're gonna.
Hi, you're next.
Hi, John.
Yes.
Can you please have Paulie as a regular?
Oh, you like it?
I love Paulie.
Don't hang up on this one.
Well, you got one in your corner tonight, didn't you?
Oh, God. Paulie.
Yeah, yes, sir.
You could screw all the people who hate you because I love you personally.
Wow. Can we allow that on the air?
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Adam from Hackensack.
Okay.
Adam, Hackensack is one of the smartest towns I've ever heard of. Seriously.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Has a very high IQ. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing just fine.
What's going on?
Nothing much.
Listen, I'm going to have to go now, but it was a pleasure to talk to a fine intellectual like you.
Wait, John.
Yes.
What exactly is the possibilities of having Paulie as a regular?
Slim and none. Slim and none.
Hey, what do you think if we just throw John the hell out of here and I take over the show?
You got enough money to do that, don't you?
Of course I do.
I haven't laughed so hard for the entire hour.
Neither have I.
I have been laughing so hard. Please have him as a regular, please.
All right, Paul, you got the show beginning next week.
Hold on a minute. Hey, Dave, you still there?
Yeah.
Isn't this a great show? Do you think people understand the humor in this, or are they told? I mean, we're in New York. We are in the most intellectual city on the face of the planet. We're in the center of the universe. Do you think people understand my brand of humor?
What?
Do you think people understand my brand of humor?
Some people do.
I mean, do you appreciate it?
I've been laughing most of the hour.
Go ahead. Give the address for the Wrestling Observer newsletter, you good-looking thing, you. P.O. Box 1228, California 95009. Is that right?
That's correct.
Hold on, Dave. We'll be right back. Hello. You're on the air.
That's hilarious, man.
It's awesome because all this stuff's going on, and then all of a sudden he goes, "Hold on, let me see, Dave, you still there?" And he goes, "Yeah,
One of the most unique shows we've ever done.
Yeah, it's just all over. Yeah, and like I said, it was impossible for me to write notes. I tried. I listened to this episode like 3 times, and I was like, I don't know what to say. This happened. I can't tell you what someone called in about. I can't say caller said penis. Next caller says enema.
Yeah.
Next caller. You know what I mean?
Like, everything was going on rapid fire succession, and what can you do? How can you do it? You just had to sit back and just listen to it.
Yeah. So the full episode is worth listening to. Although I did pull a lot from it, there's still a lot left that I was like, I can't take this. Yeah. And then this isn't even how the show ended, but this is the final clip I have of Paul.
Okay.
And that should be some exciting shows from different continents.
Are we going to do that
on
your calling card?
Not on mine. Maybe on yours.
Are we done with these?
I think the Power Twins have a couple of cards we could use.
Yeah, but it's not theirs.
And also, tonight we were supposed to do a legend show. We were going to bring
I'm a legend.
The legends on.
I'm a legend.
We weren't able to hook everybody up together. Paulie wanted to come on. A couple of heartbreaking stories also happened. So next week we're going to do that.
Okay, we got 6.5 minutes. So let's do this quick. Okay?
Go ahead, Paulie. Take it away.
Go. You're on.
Hi.
Hi.
Can I speak to John?
John's not here. This is a self-help line. Who you want to talk to?
I want to ask why it's amateur night tonight.
Oh, hold on a second. I'll get you through. Hello? May I help you?
Hi.
Hello? Who you want to talk to?
John.
John? He ain't here. Thank you. Yes, hello?
Hello, this is former President George Bush.
Hey, George, I voted for Clinton. Hello?
Hello.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, Paulie, did you hear 6 little, 5 little, 4 little Von Erichs, 3 little, 2 little...
You people are so stupid if you think I'm not going to hang up on you. I mean, what kind of jerks are you? Go ahead. You're on the air. Watch, you're probably from Brooklyn. Hello.
I was born in Brooklyn, as was
Well,
Dave
good.
Meltzer.
Then we don't want to talk to you. Hello.
As is Dave Meltzer, he said.
Dave Meltzer was... Hold on. Watch this. Hey, Dave, you were born in Wappingers Falls, right?
No, I was born in Queens, maybe Brooklyn.
The hell with you, Dave. Everybody, I want you to read Pro Wrestling Torch. It's the finest newsletter. It's P.O. Box 1228, Camel, California 95009, and Dave born in Brooklyn. Nah. But you lived in Wappingers Falls, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Wappingers Falls.
Okay, there you go. Are you from Brooklyn?
Hello.
Thank you very much. Linda Blair, ladies and gentlemen. She's making a comeback in movies. Hello.
Hey, John?
No, Paul. Thanks for calling. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, John?
Yes.
Yeah, listen, I'll make this quick. I know you don't have a lot of time.
Whoa, you speak way too fast. Slow down.
All right, sure. I called last time.
Whoa. Hey, yo, speed reader. Chill out.
You got it. I called last time Paulie was on.
Yeah.
So I write the wrestling newsletter, and I tried to get an interview from Paulie. When I called him, do that crap up and down on the floors. Called him at his home in Scranton, and he cursed me out. Paul,
He doesn't
you're
live
son
in
of a
Scranton.
bitch, rotten hell.
Thank you very much. I'll see you there. Hello.
No, that wasn't actually
Hello.
something obscene. I don't think that was an obscene statement.
Why? How come
He
people-
just wished you to hell.
And there you got it. There it is, folks.
Something that I also thought was remarkable was it was nonstop. People knew what was going to happen, and your line lit up.
They kept trying.
They would keep trying, or they would just be like, you know what, it's not worth it. Because then you would go to lines that were dead, you know, or people didn't notice right away.
And there were several lines there. I mean, you know, there was 5, 6, 7, whatever the number was, but
yeah,
they kept calling.
Yeah,
masochists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of like being a New York Mets fan.
Yeah,
we're Metsichists. What a great episode, though. I mean, just to look back at it from 30 years ago and the insanity that ensued inside the studio. And it was one of the most unique shows ever. I mean, it was one of the wildest shows we've ever done.
Yeah. And this one needed time to breathe. I'm glad that we did this one alone.
Yeah. And it was like hilarity. It wasn't like the serious wild shows that we did with the scandals with Billy Graham in the studio and all that craziness. And even times when Paul E had gotten fired before Eddie Gilbert got fired and those shows that we covered extensively, and we will again. We will again with a fresh coat of paint. Yeah, good one. Great to have Donny on. Great to have you here. As always, I think everyone's going to enjoy this one.
I think this was good. This is a good one. And it's like, it's almost in a sense peak Paul. Like,
yeah,
this is him cranked up.
Cranked to the max.
Yeah.
With Mac
we see more stuff like that later.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Let everybody know where they can get a hold of you. What's going on in your life, and
you can find me chopping it up with Medusa at youtube.com/Queen of Carnage. Got some cool interviews up there, and she went over the Dark Side of the Ring, which did really well. A lot of people like that one. So,
which
we
one?
might
The
do some more
Doink
of those.
one or the one from last week?
She did the Tammy and Chris Candido. She had a lot to say about that.
Chris. Did you see the Doink one?
I haven't, but I think I want to.
It's amazing.
Is it?
Amazing.
Do they cover like Alabama Doink?
They covered all of it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And here's the thing with Matt Bourne. I used him one time. I went to Caracas, Venezuela, and he was there. And I didn't see any of that stuff that people were referring to. And the episode is horrific. It really is. But he was a perfect gentleman. He did his job, and it totally surprised me. But it was reminiscent of some of the earlier Dark Sides. It was really digging deep into this dark side of this individual. He was screwed up.
All right, I'll
you got to see it. It's the best episode of this season so far. Heads and tails above any of the other episodes that have aired up to this point in the season.
Did you get exposed much to Matt Bourne in general? Because outside of that, working with him the once?
Well, at ECW, when he came in at ECW.
Yes, that's right.
And I thought the character there was just incredible.
Yeah.
He and Paul E with his genius mind. He really, that was probably out of the entire Doink run. And Doink I always was a fan of it, as you heard on the previous episodes. I was a fan of that character when he was there. But when he was at ECW, it was times 10. The darkness of the character and the psychology of what that character really was. Yeah. And it's covered on the Dark Side of the Ring episode, and I have to recommend it to everybody. It's just fabulous, but it's sad, and it was shocking to me because I didn't know the depth of the demons that this guy had. Yeah,
that's crazy. That'll be neat. Yeah, because we've really mapped out your hate into love of the Doink character as it emerged and as it grew on you, and I've always thought of him as quite a genius, really, because I felt like his portrayal of Doink was deep.
Yeah, but Maniac Matt Bourne, his whole side, he was one of the true believers. I mean, he was believable. He tore that curtain down. You could really get engaged in the character because he was so good at what he did, and he was a great worker as well. And it's just a sad story. Yeah. Especially when he left and he got fired from the WWF, and then the Doink character lived on.
Yeah, that's got to be.
That's the eventual downfall of Matt Bourne.
Yeah. I mean, outside of that, I'm here with you on Pro Wrestling Spotlight on the youtube.com/Pro Wrestling Spotlight, and I'm at Ref Marsh on Twitter and at Marsh Ref on Instagram. So if you guys need anything or want to know anything, you can find me there. And I lurk around your Facebook page with the Pro Wrestling Spotlight and the Matt Memories, and I really enjoy the conversations that happen through there. It's really cool. So if someone's not on it, they should.
It's blown up. I mean, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. I mean, the public one, the private one, that's less. But I mean, the followers and the impressions that we're getting on some of these classic wrestling photos, it's blown me away. How many people are now sharing it, and the thousands of people now. When I get the notification, all right, you reached 2.8 million people in the last 28 days. I'm like, huh? It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's fantastic.
But anyway, fun stuff. Marsh, always a pleasure. Great to see you as always. And that'll wrap up this edition. If you want to follow me, Twitter is at John Arezzi, Instagram at John Arezzi as well. Lots of classic content on all of my socials. And don't forget the YouTube channel, Pro Wrestling Spotlight, is on YouTube now, in a much bigger way. And we're going to be adding a lot more stuff on there. So youtube.com/Pro Wrestling Spotlight. Please subscribe today. And if you listen to this podcast, please rate it. Give it a 5-star review on Apple and spread the word about it. Let's grow the audience. I know we have a very loyal, hardcore fan base like I did when I had the show 30 years ago. And I'm sure there's less of us around that follow wrestling today, but if you're a fan of history and friends of yours that really dug the 90s and everything that happened, and a show like mine that was kind of unique for its time, let people know about it. And please, if you really want to help support us, go to patreon.com/John Arezzi. Hear all of these shows in their entirety. New shows added every week. You get them earlier than anyone else, and there's other content on there as well. I mean, for $5 a month to get you in the door, it's not a lot to ask for the content you're receiving. So that'll about wrap it up. I will talk more history with you next week right here on the Pro Wrestling Spotlight. Until then, have a great week, everybody.